Is Jarno Trulli going to get ahead of Michael Schumacher? One more corner, plant the gas, dive for the line. Are you going to get pole at Monaco? You've taken it, Jarno. Rock and roll down to the Renault garage.
What a place to get the first pole of your career. Thumbs up for Jarno Trulli. His Renault leads the field in Monte Carlo. A massive contrast, though, for Jenson Button. Last year he couldn't race after crashing at 170 miles an hour exiting the tunnel. This afternoon, he's on the front row.
And Button does a 1:14.396, goes second and splits the two Renaults.
An Englishman hasn't won round here since Graham Hill way back in 1969. Maybe, just maybe, it'll be Jenson Button's day at the Monaco Grand Prix. Hello there, good afternoon. It is race day in Monte Carlo. It's an absolutely magical occasion. This really is the race the drivers want to win above all others. Conditions pretty good, lots of blue sky around, bit of cloud cover as well. Temperatures around about 22 degrees. We are, though, expecting a dry race, and we're all wondering if Michael Schumacher's phenomenal run of success will end this afternoon. 5 races, 5 wins, 50 points. The brilliant world champion trying to beat Nigel Mansell's record by becoming the only driver to win the first 6 races of the season. There are half a dozen races coming up in the next couple of months. It's all very hectic. Michael Schumacher's won Monaco 5 times. He's only 4th on the grid. Very tough indeed to win from there. Ferrari teammate Barrichello, he is 32 today. Button's already enjoyed his first podium and pole this year. Could we see that first victory? Alonso and Trulli have scored points at every race. Trulli on pole and Alonso right behind. Last year's winner, Montoya, he starts a distant 9th, 3 ahead of Ralf Schumacher, and he's been demoted 10 places after an engine change. Right, Mark and Tony with me on our superb little balcony up here. Welcome both. Who's going to win? You've got a feeling for a Renault driver, haven't you?
I have. I mean, of course, we're all rooting for Jenson Button, but I can't help feeling that Fernando Alonso, a winner, a great racer, so aggressive, he's going to push Trulli very hard. And also because Pat Simmons of Renault says they haven't compromised their strategy. You
go for Michael.
Well, as much as I'd like to see somebody else win the race, I think Michael's still got it. I think he's got something up his sleeve with Ferrari. They've got good tactics. Ross Brawn's a fantastic guy when it comes to vision for the race. And I think they've got a little bit more fuel on board. I think we're going to get a bit of a shock come the first pit stop.
Really? He was penalised, wasn't he, Michael Schumacher, in qualifying because he had to go earlier than he wanted to, and he's ended up 4th, not a great position.
Well, I think what they did, they made a small mistake. I think they put a little bit too much fuel in for his first qualifying session. That then gave the pecking order for his second one, which was the dominating factor of where he was on the grid. And there is a little bit of an issue there. I think Michael is now dwelling on the fact that they tried to run so heavy. But it could all pay off come the race. I'm still thinking that there is something there.
They'll be looking for the master tactician we saw there, Ross Brawn, to pull something out of the bag. Only 3 drivers, I think, have won from 4th position in 50 races here, so Michael will have to do some to do it. The Renaults, though, brilliant starters as always, Tony, and right at the front.
Well, 2 rocket ships, so they are, but Bob Bell, the technical director, who was the deputy to Mike Gascoigne, great continuity in the team and great work on this very nimble chassis, which is kind to its tyres. Jarno Trulli working very hard, the perfectionist he is in qualifying, working with Alan Permain, his engineer. And they come up with this setup where he can put the car exactly where he wants it, deliver all the power the way they want. And Alonso as well following him through with tremendous extra power they found from this Renault engine. And it really is a very good Michelin track as well. So they're on super soft tyres, maximum downforce. But the precision and the speed which they've used, the engine doesn't count for everything here. So it's not the most powerful engine in the business, but they've used the car well.
Top 3 all on Michelins. I'm going to go for Jenson Button, if you two aren't. But he's caught in that Renault sandwich, isn't he, in the 170-mile-an-hour dash to Saint-Devote.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, but, you know, Jenson is driving outstandingly at the moment. The car is working very, very well. Sato's up there at the front in the grid with him. But, you know, watch the guy inside the cockpit. You see he's very smooth, he has got the precision, and he's got the rhythm, and that's what's needed for a circuit like Monte Carlo. But I'm just not quite sure whether the distance is there for this car yet to do the job. I don't think it quite is there.
OK, Mark, thank you very much indeed. Let's have a word with some of the drivers, starting with the pole sitter, basking in reflected glory, Jarno Trulli.
Brilliant lap, Jarno. Very good. You've got a really good chance of winning this race.
Yeah, anyone has got a good chance to win a race. Absolutely, being in pole give me a bit more chance than anyone else. I'm very happy, pleased, because I did an extremely good lap, faultless. right on the limit. Took a lot of risks, but it was worth to do it.
Compared to the Renaults, I think we're pretty close. We've been doing quite a few long runs, and we're pretty strong compared to them. But the Ferraris, as always, are awesomely quick. So I wouldn't count them out in the race. But we'll have to see what strategy they've got.
The car is very constant, no problems at all, easy to drive. So we are, I think, quite strong into the race.
Monaco is a long race. It's not optimum where we start from. We're not very happy on that one, but what can you do? I mean, we will still do the race and try our best.
They get great support here to Ferrari. The fans tend to pack the hill right above us below the Royal Palace, and Michael Schumacher has done the business for them. 3 wins in the Ferrari round here, and he has really been untouchable so far in F1 2004. We've seen that trademark celebration leap in Australia. Then we moved to sweltering Malaysia. A new venue, Bahrain, but the celeb just the same. Back to Europe we came, San Marino. And there we are, one for the Tifosi. And a couple of weeks ago, ole, the rain continues in Spain. Will the run end today, though? Ted Kravitz reporting.
Michael Schumacher's had a bit of a face-on so far this weekend. Ferrari have been beaten here for the last 2 years, and Michael doesn't want to make it 3. The team's chances of victory are slimmer than they have been all season, but they're on the hard tyres that are great for the race. Michael now has to hope that he has more fuel on board than his opponents.
We have, I think, the master of strategy in our team, Ross, so I cross my fingers that he's going to do the best job he can, which I know he will. Where he's going to end up in our situation, that's the good question.
You could get beaten here tomorrow.
We could get beaten every race, you know that. So, yeah, there's a strong chance, but that day was going to come. But I promise you, we won't be giving up easily.
Neither will this man. Fernando Alonso races better than his pole-sitting teammate. But if he doesn't pass Trulli in the pit stops, he'll have to hold station behind him, like he did at Barcelona 2 weeks ago. Alonso was out-qualified by Trulli here last year, but finished ahead of the Italian. He needs a repeat performance this afternoon.
In Barcelona, yes, he was chasing down Jarno, and we did say to him on the radio that he mustn't take any risks. Now, we can't tell him, look, you're not allowed to challenge Jarno, but I think we made it clear that he'd be up before Mr. Briatore in the morning if he did anything stupid.
So with those two scrapping it out, the door's open for Jenson Button to take his maiden victory, but he has to survive the start. Trulli's Renault is much more powerful at low revs than the BAR. At the last race, Trulli got away at the same time as Sato, but propelled himself into first place by turn 1. Jenson's best chance then is to do a rude Schumacher-style chop across the track, just like Coulthard did here to Montoya 2 years ago.
We would hope that we're running as long or probably slightly longer than the Renaults. We feel we've got quite a good race pace here. The only problem for us tomorrow is we are straight up against the current best starters on the grid. So it's just to hold our place, I think, will be quite good.
I was pretty chuffed to be in front of the Ferraris, but to have a Renault in front and a Renault behind is pretty tough because they're very good at the start. So we've got to watch out for Fernando.
Despite the slowest corner on the calendar, some cars are going to average close to 100 miles an hour. Hop on board now, the Renault of pole sitter Jarno Trulli and Martin Brundle.
Let's join Jarno Trulli for his first pole position. A brilliant lap. Watch closely. 170 miles an hour down the pit straight into Saint-Devote. Bring it down to about 80. Stamps on the throttle, now climbing the hill, flamboyantly changing gear with his right hand as he heads up towards Massenet. 170 over the crest. Hugged the barrier on the left-hand side. Watch the bit at the Hotel de Paris. Now falling downhill once again. Brilliant traction. Got to get it in nice and early to the high Mirabeau. That is superb. Down to the hairpin. Look at this. Crank on all the lock you've got. Hooks up to the apex nicely. Just ride the curb on the right-hand side into Portier. Once again, turning in early. The front of that Renault working superbly. Heading down towards the seafront then. Through the tunnel he goes. It's bumpy in the braking zone. And look how closely he skims the barriers on the way in and on the way out. He's really on it now. He said, I'm taking risks for this lap, and just watch him through the swimming pool. Listen to the throttle. Didn't even lift, change there in the middle of it. Incredible. Now he knows he's on a flying lap. Just the Rascas really ahead of him. A nice straight line braking zone now. Good traction again out of there. The clumsy Anthony Nogue corner, but he took it nicely. Just drive to the line then. A brilliant lap, surely the best of his life. Jarno Trulli on pole.
Well, it was a super lap from Jarno Trulli, and I've got his ex-teammate here, Alan McNish. Alan, you don't have to be politically correct with the team anymore. Do you think he can really win this afternoon?
Yes, I think he can. The car's good. He's driving with a lot of confidence and much more consistent than he was last year. But to me, the key is going to be the first stint and how and who comes out first after the first pit stop.
Because traffic, if they come back into traffic, your race is effectively sunk, is that right?
Oh, definitely. Round here, you know, we remember David Coulthard getting blocked by Enrique Bernaldi in an Arrows, so it was 3 seconds slower than him. He couldn't do anything about it. And so that is definitely going to be the key. But I think they've got the speed. My question is where Alonso's going to be out of the first corner.
What about Renault and BAR? If they race each other, is there a chance they could let Ferrari in the back door?
Michael's definitely the dark horse here because people are now focusing on what Jarno's going to do, what Jensen's going to do, and Alonso to an extent. But I feel that they're just going to be there chipping away. And a little bit like he did here last year. He didn't qualify so well, but at the end of the race he was right there just by taking points in places when he could.
Tony.
A very tough racing prospect. Manual gear changes, 3,800 they estimate for the entire lap. Different steering, tyres, fuel, strategy is absolutely vital.
Okay, Jensen Button, can he do it, Mark? I know you've got a feeling for Mr. Schumacher, but can he do it, this fella Jensen?
Yeah, I would like to see Jensen do it. I think all of England would like to see Jensen do it, but I think there's still a little bit of way to go yet. But Michael, just watch him. There's still things to be done in this race. I'm going to sit back and watch it as well. I'm really excited.
Baumgartner with the Minardis who've had a pretty tough time will be starting down the back. And Monte Carlo or bust, really, this for Michael Schumacher. 5 wins out of 5 so far this season, but Michael Schumacher will be starting 4th, and only 3 drivers have won from there since 1950. If you're joining us for the first time, by the way, you are very welcome. Watch the Renaults, Trulli the pole sitter, and this fellow also. They are Formula One's fastest starters. Above all, though, keep your eyes on Jensen Button. Jensen Button on the front row in the BAR. Bruni is way down the back in the Minardi, and Button in shape for his first victory. A chance to join the greats like Senna, Graham Hill, Moss, Stewart, Fangio and Niki Lauda. All of them winners of the unique Monte Carlo Grand Prix.
41 degrees the track temperature, 22 the air temperature, and that's good news for our pole sitter, Jarno Trulli. Well, Monaco has played host this weekend to movie stars Brad Pitt and George Clooney, who along with the Jaguar team have been publicising a new film called Ocean's 12 about an audacious jewellery robbery. Today, on the track, Trulli and Jensen Button both have the chance to perform something of a smash and grab on Michael Schumacher and take their first ever Grand Prix victory. Schumacher left the door open for them and Fernando Alonso in qualifying yesterday, and Schumacher starting from 4th on the grid as a result. Now, this race has been won from that far back on 4 occasions in the past, but if I tell you that the last time was 32 years ago, it'll give you an idea of the task facing Michael Schumacher this afternoon. So whatever the result, it's going to be exciting. You can't help but feel, though, that this is perhaps Trulli's moment. He certainly does. His lap yesterday was absolutely spectacular. And afterwards, he was talking and saying, I'm ready now. Everything is in place. It's all coming towards me. I think the arrival of Alonso as his teammate last year, the victory of Alonso in Hungary, made Trulli look inwards at himself, made him relax more as a Grand Prix driver. Certainly the people in the Renault team are saying he's calmer now, and perhaps today is his day. Certainly he's keen, Martin, to shed that tag that he's had of Formula One's nearly man. I think today he could indeed come of age by getting that first victory, translating his first ever pole into the first ever win.
Well, he's certainly got a very fast car underneath him, and I really wanted to congratulate him on the grid for that brilliant qualifying lap. I hadn't really seen it until I voiced it over this morning for the show, and it's the only time we get to see the whole lap from an onboard camera, and particularly the second half of it was quite sensational. So a well-deserved pole, and look, just about over 4 tenths clear of anybody else, and really Let's hope he can. There's a lot of discussion in the paddock, you know, Trulli stopping on lap 20. No, he's not. He's light on fuel. He can't be that far ahead of Alonso if he was heavy on fuel, etc., etc. The basic bottom line is we don't know. But it's pretty certain it'll be a two-stopper, James, would you agree? And we're expecting the early stops to be around or a bit before lap 20. But I think Trulli, Button and Alonso have got a great chance to win this Grand Prix this afternoon. What for me will be the absolute critical moment is can Raikkonen beat Michael Schumacher with him? We know he's got more grips in the first few hundred metres of the first lap. Can Raikkonen, who starts alongside Schumacher, beat him into the first corner? If he can, I don't think his car's quite as fast as the Renault's, and you may then see them released. But they know that Michael is so awesome on the in and out laps that that he's going to be there somewhere. So they're almost going to have to work together to beat Michael Schumacher today.
Interesting hand action there by Trulli in the cockpit. Clear proof that if he wins today, he's certainly going to be milking it afterwards. There's Button, though. He has a shot today coming up. The force is certainly with him, isn't it? The momentum behind him, string of podium finishes, pole position in Imola. Couldn't translate that into a victory. Schumacher just too strong on race day, as we've seen throughout the season so far. But just the suspicion today that the Michelin tyres on the Renault and the BAR might like this warm track temperature a little bit more than the Ferraris on the Bridgestone. And there is Raikkonen that Martin was talking about.
This is a nice moment for a driver on the grid at Monaco. It is a brilliant event to be in and part of, and all the annoying people like myself have been cleared off the grid now. It's you and your team and a lot more space and freedom. All of a sudden it's like somebody switches the lights on. Now that moment you can see now, it's hey, we're heading off into the it's probably the first time you've seen the car in front of you when the mechanics finally clear out of the way and all of a sudden it's game on.
Well, we know all about what the Renaults can do off the start line. They've made exemplary starts throughout this year. Trulli going from 4th to 1st 2 weeks ago in Barcelona. So good is the start device that they have in that car. Look at them, the two of them on the left-hand side of the grid. Button on the right there with behind him Michael Schumacher. Rubens Barrichello behind him. The parade lap almost ready to go. The windows are up in the Royal box to drown out the sound from the Royal family. And off they go on their formation lap. You'll see the two McLarens well placed this weekend. Much better for them in qualifying. Coulthard and Raikkonen doing a very solid job. It's a track that doesn't seem to highlight the shortcomings in that McLaren chassis perhaps quite as much as places like Barcelona. That's the championship situation at the moment. Whatever happens, Schumacher goes away from Monaco, still leading the world title. But look at Alonso and Trulli, level pegging on points. That says a lot about how well matched those two drivers are in the Renault team.
And they're such great friends too. Let's hope they're still great friends when they get down to turn 1 to Saint-Devote here, because we know they can both be lightning off the grid. Jensen's going to have his hands full. The team he used to drive for, of course, and he's going to have his hands full, I think, to hold position down to turn 1. Although that outside grid slot has been so successful, as Louise pointed out earlier in the programme.
Well, Button will be hoping that the same thing happens for him. Jarno Trulli saying yesterday after qualifying that Button was genuinely happy for him to have got his pole, even though he took it away from him, because those two were teammates at Renault. It was a difficult time for Jensen. When Button got his first pole at Imola, the whole of Formula One was delighted for him, and same again for Trulli yesterday. Quite a milestone for the young Italian, 29 years old. Jarno Trulli starting his 118th Grand Prix. It's been a long time coming, the first pole.
A man I think has got a bit of fuel on board, maybe a dark horse for a solid result this afternoon, not for a win, but with Giancarlo Fisichella starting the race in 10th, goes very well around here and pretty handy in his Sauber Ferrari. I was interested what Jensen said on the line to me. It's something he was so strong on. Ferrari's race pace is very fast, and I really, from what the data I've seen, I hadn't picked it up to that extent, but Jensen clearly is concerned about how fast those Ferraris are going to be once they're up and running.
Well, it's interesting because Michael Schumacher actually let Rubens Barrichello do most of the long-distance running. He obviously didn't want to use his engine up or his car too much. We're only allowed one engine per Grand Prix weekend now in Formula One. And looking at Rubens' long runs, yeah, they were reasonably fast, but certainly not the kind of advantage in race pace that Bridgestone and Ferrari have enjoyed at all of the 5 Grand Prix we've been to so far this season. So, yeah, it's perhaps a little psychological reassurance there from Jensen. But he certainly is in a very strong position.
Now, Jarno Trulli's job in his first ever pole position is to back this pack right up now so that he doesn't sit on the grid any longer than he has to. Keeping your car cool at any Grand Prix circuit is a problem because they're cooled only by the air driven through the side pods and over the radiators. But around a street circuit, the air is much more still and it's difficult to, you never get the high speeds to be able to cool the car down. So it's even more crucial here in Monaco to make sure you don't sit on that grid any longer than you have to, because as soon as they get hot, they start pumping out water and then you're in trouble. It's a long afternoon.
Well, there's the guys at the back of the field. You can see the Jordans and the Minardis. I noticed Michael Schumacher this morning on the drivers' parade, going around buttering up the Jordan drivers, giving them his attention. Clearly, he's thinking that this afternoon he's going to need them to get out of his way when he comes through. Well, Jarno Trulli has led 61 laps in his Grand Prix career, but he's never led the last one. Can he, this afternoon, put that right? 78 laps to go. We've got a problem, I think, with the start system.
I think it's possibly D'Amata outside. The
Panis isn't in his position, Martin.
Panis is out of place down here. What's happened to him outside our window? Yes, you're right, James. Olivier Panis is not in a grid slot. Whether he's just missed it or whether he's got a technical problem, don't know what's going on down here. So a restart is in process.
Well, he's in the right place in the sense that he's behind Mark Webber. Webber qualifying 11th, Panis in 13th place. But for some reason, Panis has stopped about 6 feet short of his grid slot and on a sort of an oblique angle. So not quite sure what's going on there for the Toyota.
Panis will be, if it is him, and it must be him surely, that's caused this, because he's sort of in no man's land in the centre of the track at the moment down here. Maybe just stalled the engine coming towards the line. I think he's just overshot where he should be. He will have to go to the back when they pull away. That's what I was telling you about, look. The water pumping out of the back of that Renault. They fill the system up. It all gets very, very hot. You lose some of it, and obviously you cannot replace that in a hot engine. But they will not refuel the cars. 1 lap will be taken off the Grand Prix distance, and the restart process, they'll be given a time when the start will commence. So they leave the same tyres on, and they'll rush some blankets on to try and keep any temperature they've got in there. And so this is an extra problem, and I think this will hurt the Bridgestone runners more than the Michelin runners, James, because they really struggle to build up initial temperature, don't they, from these kind of conditions. And the start of the new formation lap is 9 minutes past the hour. That's past 2 o'clock here, but 9 minutes past the hour wherever you are in the world.
And that's about 4 minutes from now. There's Olivier Panis. I wonder how much that coolant coming out of the back of Trulli's car is going to affect the acceleration of Fernando Alonso. They'll try and mop it up as best they can, but well, drama already, and the race hasn't even started yet. Welcome back to Monaco. Delayed start here due to Olivier Panis having some problems at the end of the formation lap as they formed up on the grid. And the tyre cover's coming off Michael Schumacher's car now because the formation lap, the new formation lap, going to go off in 50 seconds time.
Yeah, so the bad news is then they've got very warm on the original formation lap. Then the heat just wells up inside the car. Charlie Whiting, race director there, getting ready to send them off one more time. Ted.
Just spoke to Mike Gascoigne. He said Olivier Panis, it was his fault. He just stalled the car.
Yeah, I think looking out of our window, he'd gone too far to turn in to his grid slot, as you saw, James. And very strangely, it's been pointed out to us that D'Amata, his teammate, always seems to start halfway down his grid box, giving up. There's 8 meters between grid slots, and he adds another 4 to that, which is rather curious. Whether he doesn't know exactly how far he's allowed to go, I can't see an advantage in it. But anyway, the Toyotas then with dramas, and Panis with a man in front of him who carries a yellow flag and who will not release him until the entire pack is underway.
Now, it's a time for a cool head at the front of the grid, certainly for Jarno Trulli and Jenson Button. They've been through the procedure before. They got nervous. The anticipation, the excitement of the start, leading the front of the Monaco Grand Prix. And Panis has stalled it again, getting away from the parade lap. Once again, right in front of us in our commentary position. There you can see it. So that car is really not having a good day. Can they get it off the start-finish line before the leaders come round again? That's the $10 million question. Not too many people jumping in to push it or get it out of the way at the moment. No real urgency there at all, Martin.
This happened to the teammate D'Amata last year. There's nobody. They're all walking past him. Maybe his team are not aware that they can't start the race with him sitting there. They'll have to push it out of the way. And a bit of a drama going on here. Total inaction. Panis stuck in gear, so it will. He'll now have to hit the emergency release. And that is a replay you're seeing, because I can see Panis being pushed out of the way now. They will get him to the pit exit, and they should clear him out of the way. They've got, there it is. They've got just enough time, I think, to get Panis and his Toyota out of the road.
They just left him rolling down the road. Oh, well.
Nobody was doing anything. It was really strange. I don't understand why they're not trying to start the car again. His mechanics, I would have thought, once the pack is gone, I would have thought they're allowed out there to give it a restart.
He was sitting there like a 3-year-old in the park waiting for his grandpa to give him a push on his tricycle, and no one was willing to oblige. But they finally got him out of the way, and we can concentrate once again on the racing.
Michael Schumacher working overtime, wasn't he, to get some heat in those Bridgestones of his. And I think further indicating he knows there's not a bundle of grip out there until he's probably now a couple of laps into the Grand Prix. This is going to be very tricky down to the first corner. And as you pointed out, James, he's a cool head, and there's some young and fresh blood, isn't there, on the front of the grid, but they all look pretty cool with it too.
It's exciting. It's an exciting time for Formula One. Michael Schumacher might be winning all the races, but you can clearly see that behind him we've got a generation of drivers that are very exciting. Raikkonen, Alonso, Button, Webber, Trulli. Some terrific young drivers there. Sato could well come good as well. A lot of talent here. Drivers aging from 23 through to 28, 29. And the future of Formula One certainly looks very strong indeed. There, Olivier Panis just getting his, you see the rear wheel spinning there. So once again, the car stalled.
Yeah, he will be allowed, once they've switched it off, so they're going to restart it again. There's no point in him sitting there for 3/4 of a minute, cooking the engine one more time. So he will be released out of the pits when the pack has passed the pit exit.
The build-up of noise, excitement, anticipation. Some problems, once again, it seems, for Panis, but let's focus on the race. They're lining up now. Ralf Schumacher in position below us. We're looking at the point of view of Michael Schumacher, world champion. Those are the 3 cars he needs to beat this afternoon. Can he come through? Can Trulli keep his nerve? We'll find out in a second. Go! Great start by both of the Renaults, and Button's fighting a rearguard action. Once again, the Renault's electric on the start line. Look at Sato around the outside, and Raikkonen as well. Schumacher's lost ground and part of his nose, I think. Certainly one of the Ferraris has had some damage.
Yeah, Sato with a brilliant start. I think it was a piece of Raikkonen's nose. There's a Minardi in the background that's broken down on the exit of the first corner. It's a Renault 1-2 and a BAR 3-4 at the moment. And Sato just up behind him. A brilliant start from him. Raikkonen 5th. Michael Schumacher down to 6th then. You can see the 2 Ferraris there. Coulthard just behind them. So as I said, I think it was a pivotal part of the race. If Michael gets backed into some traffic, his work is going to be doubly hard this afternoon.
Sato then up from 7th place to 4th, made 3 places at the start. Absolutely stunning. And we'll have to wait and see, because quite a few bits of carbon fibre seem to be coming off the somebody's front wing. It looked like it had red on it, so that's what made me think it was Ferrari. We'll find out. That's Klein. He's gone off. Where's he gone off? Anyway, oh, it's at the Lowe's hairpin. Let's have a look.
Yeah, where is he? Oh, he's lost his nose up at the top for some reason, and then he toboggans down on it. It's wedged underneath his right front wheel, so he just skidded down. He had a problem at the top of the hill and fell down, really.
Trulli leads then. Alonso 2nd, Button 3rd, 4th Sato, 5th Raikkonen, 6th Michael Schumacher, 7th Rubens Barrichello, 8th David Coulthard, 9th Juan Montoya, 10th Mark Webber. That's the top 10 at the moment. You can see 11th Fisichella, 12th D'Amata. But what about this for a start? We've got Trulli, Alonso, Button, Sato and Raikkonen all ahead of the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher, who's gone back 2 places at the start.
Well, let's see now. I mean, we know the yellow flags are waving because Klein's at the bottom of the hill. And both BARs have got some puffs of smoke coming out of the back. I hope it's, what is that? Mark, don't stand there, for goodness sake. He thinks they're going to see him and just move out of the way. If they lock a wheel, they'll just wipe him out. Not the place to stand, my friend, but he's got away with it on this lap. He saw Klein come down there, tobogganing down out of control. Anybody else can do the same thing. But I think the BARs are just hitting the ground quite hard. And there is Sato defending heavily against Kimi Raikkonen. Michael Schumacher trying to make something of it and foul. There, that's what I'm talking about. There's something smoking on the back of Sato's Honda engine or something touching at the back end. Sato then, has he got a problem?
wonder. Certainly he appears to be beginning a train here, doesn't he, behind him, whilst the two Renaults and Button pull away at the moment. Sato 3 seconds behind the race leader at the end of the previous lap. This is the end of lap 3. And that's gone out to 6.3. So Schumacher and Raikkonen lost 3 seconds to the race leaders just in that lap alone.
Yeah, this is exactly what we were talking about. If Michael got backed up, it was going to wreck his afternoon. And that's exactly what's happening at the moment. There's nowhere to overtake around here. They're going to be looking at that smoke of Sato, hoping he expires soon. But is it just an overfill of oil, or does he have the beginning of a serious gremlin there? But at the moment, he's running fine, if not particularly fast. The gap to his teammate, 4 seconds already. But when you go defensive around here, you lose bucket loads of time.
Well, remember Enrique Bernoldi a few years ago in the Arrows held up David Coulthard legitimately. They were battling for position. Coulthard was unlucky with his start for 45 laps of the Grand Prix. Completely ruined Coulthard's afternoon. And I just wonder whether something similar isn't happening to Raikkonen and Schumacher at the moment. They must be thinking the same thing, not least getting dobs of oil all over their visors. And that's the answer. The Honda engine lets go of Takuma Sato. That has happened before this year in Grand Prix, and that's a warning sign for Jenson Button, his teammate. Oh, we've got a crash, a big one. It's a well, I don't know who that is, but that's a big impact with the Armco barrier.
Is that a Renault upside down in there? We got cars everywhere. Somebody's been clipped and gone upside down. Presumably it's because came into a load of smoke there. They'll have to red flag it. There's a red flag hanging out and a safety car board. Which one is it, my friends? You can't have both.
They pulled the red flag in, I think. That was something we've seen in the past. Occasionally marshals decide to stick the red flags out.
We think it was Fisichella whose car is upside down. Yep. Indeed it was. Fisichella out of the car. I tipped the Tyrrell over there once. It's a bit scary, but you get away with it. And it's Coulthard making a stop then early on. They're using the safety car to for some fuel. So there's the BAR. We're going to see that blowing up now, I think, on the exit of Tabak. And that is probably where Fisichella had his problem. Look, it's like going through fog on the M1. Now we're going to see it from the back of Sato's car. It's going to launch itself on the way to Tabak and all the way, and then that is what Raikkonen's trying to drive through. And what happens then? Let's keep an eye out. Fisichella's going to come in then, find some cars slowing down, I would imagine. Let's have a look. Oh, there he goes, right over the back of a McLaren of Coulthard. Coulthard with no rear wing then. Fisichella just didn't slow down.
And he'd been going into that corner at 90 miles an hour. So that's might not sound very fast in Grand Prix racing terms, but 90 miles an hour is quick enough. And that's pretty much the worst place, well, anywhere in Monaco really, with such confined areas. That's pretty much the worst place it could have blown up. Ted, what can you tell us?
Yeah, I'm down at McLaren, David Coulthard's car. They cannot repair it. Sometimes if they have enough time, they can remove and replace the rear wing, but also this bodywork is because the car's completely wrecked. David Coulthard out of the car, very angry, I must say. Williams have also stopped. I think there are some other damaged cars out there, though. They're going to have to make pit stops soon.
Yeah, that was a big impact, and clearly Fisichella hadn't worked out the. Well, how would you really? It's a bit of a cartoon, these marshals today. They're all over the racetrack when they really shouldn't be. Red flag went out, came back in again, and well, who else pitted? Heidfeld is in the pits too. Are they using it for refueling, or did he simply have a problem? Now watch out for Sato. Look, he's just catapulted between the lot of them, somehow squeezed past Barrichello's Ferrari, and then tries to go down the outside of his teammate into turn one. There he goes, just the perfect start. He bounced Michael clean out of the way.
You don't see that very often. Watch carefully. Sato on the left, Schumacher, get out of the way.
Sato was lucky he didn't end up upside down there. He just about got away with that, and Michael did well too. In-car from Michael, he's starting to close the line. Boom.
Slow away, wasn't he, Michael?
Lucky, I mean, they always build that Ferrari strong, and very lucky with that kind of impact. And there's Sato trying to have his teammate. Now, a bit of bodywork drops over. I'm sure it's Raikkonen's bodywork, probably his front wing end fence or something. Here we see it again. Let's look down at the McLaren, see if he loses a piece on the buttons. No, we miss it in there. Or was it the bollard from the inside? Well, I think it's the bollard from the inside of the corner that got spat out at the front of Raikkonen's car, and then a Minardi parked in the middle. So pretty electric start from Mr. Sato.
He's certainly made an impression on this Monaco Grand Prix, but his withdrawal and the safety car we're now under bunches the field back up again, and that's very good news for Michael Schumacher, who was losing a lot of time. Trulli, Alonso, Button, Raikkonen, the order at the restart in a few moments' time. Welcome back to Monte Carlo. James Allen and Martin Brundle with you. We're on the 6th lap of the Monaco Grand Prix, but we're not going very quickly at the moment because safety car's out there. That's David Coulthard's stricken car you saw in the garage. Takuma Sato walking back. What's happened if you just joined us? Sato's engine blew up, and in the resultant melee to get around his car, David Coulthard swerved and flipped Giancarlo Fisichella into the guardrail at the Tabac corner, 90-mile-an-hour Tabac corner. Fisichella was flipped into. Both drivers appear to be perfectly all right. Coulthard is cross but unhurt. His car is totaled. Sato's engine has melted, and Fisichella's car is wrecked as well. Everybody else is pretty much okay. Heidfeld and Ralf Schumacher have made pit stops and are back out on the track. Trulli leading then, Alonso, Button third, Raikkonen fourth, Michael Schumacher fifth, Barrichello 6th, Montoya 7th, and Webber the top 8. There's David Coulthard, who's a spectator for the rest of the Grand Prix. And, well, this is lap 7 of 77. Safety car still out there, and no indication as yet of when the safety car is going to pull out. There's a lot of oil down at the back corner.
These are the early signs and early doors for that engine, and it was increasingly smoking. Sometimes, because of the parc fermé rules and lack of time to work on the cars, they do sometimes just overfill the engines, and you get this effect. It's Raikkonen closing in, and the two Ferraris tucked up. Dream ticket for the Renault team. They were well gone, and all of a sudden it's all turned around. Down into Tabac, the engine blows. Raikkonen skips to the side of it and does well. Sato did exactly the right thing. Put it off the racing, miles off the racing line, out of danger. Everybody then came through at pedestrian pace, apart from Giancarlo Fisichella, who managed to be half racing speed by the looks of it and launched himself on the back of Coulthard. I don't know if anybody else was damaged in that. Ralf Schumacher did make a stop, as did Heidfeld, and there you see them, a replay recovering the car of Fisichella. He is absolutely fine. He got out of it, and we're now going to see that replay as it unfolds. Everybody having to just pick their way through the fog. The marshals were clearly at great risk, and boom, there goes Fisichella. And I would think the stewards will be having a word with him over that one, and Ted.
Yeah, just down at BAR. There are no real concerns, Martin, about the state of Jenson Button's engine. No warnings on the radio to him to take it easy, keep the revs down. But you've got to remember, this is the third time this season Sato's engine has blown in the race. Jenson hasn't had any engine failures in the race, so bad luck, Sato, but it's not affecting Jenson so far.
So here comes the safety car. We're told he's coming in at the end of this lap. He's made a bit of a break. Trulli has let him go. In comes the safety car. We'll be green flag racing in Monaco. This is the end of lap 7 of 77. And, well, you saw Trulli pulling out a big lead earlier on. Michael Schumacher being held up 3 seconds a lap by Sato. The race has restarted. We're looking at the wrong cars. Now we're looking at the right ones. The two Renaults once again make a bolt for it. Green flag around the track. There is Schumacher at the bottom of the hill. Two Renaults. Button, Raikkonen, Schumacher, the top 5 going up the hill into the Massenet, Casino Square. Looking back now from Jarno Trulli.
Well, if they can make the break again, and still then it's Raikkonen that's in front of Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello, who could be the spoiler. If these two Renaults get away, James, let's both get off the fence. Alonso or Trulli, which one's going to win it?
Well, bearing in mind that we don't know what their pit strategies are, we believe they're both going to pit around about lap 15 to 18, something along those lines. Button, we think, is in the same sort of zone. Michael Schumacher perhaps a lap or two longer. Certainly tactics will come to play. We're going to see a long middle stint of this race. You have to say, my gut feeling is that Alonso's stronger over the whole race distance, but Trulli is just so motivated here this afternoon.
He is, but I think Alonso, to not give the politicians answer there, I think Alonso is definitely going to would win it in a straight fight. But let's see, I agree with you on that one. So then, there are the Ferraris. Barrichello getting dropped a little bit there, in fact, quite dramatically. What's that all about? What it is all about is Montoya nailing him into Saint-Devote. What happens then? And, well, Barrichello losing a place.
It's funny, isn't it? The Ferrari seemed strangely passive this afternoon. You saw Sato barging Michael Schumacher out of the way at the original start, and now we see Barrichello letting Montoya through. I mean, they say you can't overtake at Monte Carlo, and if there's one man who'll always prove you're wrong when you say you can't overtake, it's Juan Pablo Montoya, the monster who always seems to find a way through. Trulli then, Alonso, Button, Raikkonen 3 seconds behind, Schumacher 4.2 behind, and we've already only done a lap and a half since the restart, so it's worked out well for the two Renaults at the front. And you'd have to say, Martin, with the two of them up the front playing a tactical game, they really shouldn't lose it from here.
Well, but they've just got to go. They've got to get through the back markers. They've got to do great in-laps, great out-laps. Never can they, and they know it, discount the 6-time world champion, who currently is more likely to get passed by Montoya than he is trouble the mirrors of Kimi Raikkonen. So the Ferraris very, very slow at this stage of the Grand Prix. They didn't look this slow in the first phase until we had that accident. So I don't know what's going on with them. They could be heavier on fuel. We'll find out after about lap 20. But a lot of rubbish on the racetrack too from earlier races, blow-ups, etc.
How slow is slow? Well, Michael Schumacher is over a second behind Kimi Raikkonen, so it's not particularly being held up by dirty air or anything like that. He's lapping just over, the last lap a second slower than Jarno Trulli. The pace certainly picking up now, 1:17 flat Jarno Trulli, 1:17.1 for Fernando Alonso. The track is beginning to get a little faster now that the cement dust is clearing from the back corner. The track here at Monaco does evolve an awful lot during the course of an hour and 40 minutes, doesn't it, Martin? It changes in character. The drivers have to be on top of it, the way the car feels, the way the tyres adapt to the changing conditions.
Yes, and to back that up, last year's fastest lap of the entire Grand Prix weekend was in the race, some 7/10ths faster than pole position from Kimi Raikkonen. So the track really does come to the drivers through the afternoon, especially with less running now for the teams with engine restrictions, etc., etc. But so they'll have to wait until they get a little bit more grip, and it's really fun time then when the track grips up. But Michael Schumacher now just getting a bit of a gap back to Montoya. Maybe those tyres are warming up. With all of these aborted starts and the safety car laps, I think there's no doubt about it that the Bridgestones do not like those circumstances.
Yeah, it certainly seems to be the way, doesn't it? They're not too crazy about the opening lap. This Grand Prix Bridgestone have really targeted as a must-win in 2004. This one and the French Grand Prix, they haven't won it Monaco for a few years now. Williams have had the edge last year. Of course, David Coulthard and McLaren the year before that. And Bridgestone have won just about everything with Michael Schumacher in recent years, but Monaco, obviously a real prestige event to win.
Be interesting to keep an eye on the time, James, because it's 2 hours or the set number of laps. We've had aborted starts, we've had the accident, the safety car period. At the moment, it still looks pretty much like it would go the full course of laps, but any more incidents and the Grand Prix be heading towards timed out. Fastest man last time around was this man, our man, Jenson Button. He did a 1:16.1, the two Renaults a 1:16.3, and behind them a 16.7 for Raikkonen and Michael Schumacher, who is absolutely dropping Montoya for dead now.
Bidding to become the first Englishman to win this Grand Prix since the late 1960s, Graham Hill. Nigel Mansell couldn't do it here at Monaco. Damon Hill could never do it here at Monaco. Despite all the Grand Prix that they won, they were always jinxed around this place. And Jenson Button, who lives here, is very, very keen to put that right. But he's got two blue and yellow cars in front of him that, frankly, throughout this weekend have looked very, very strong indeed. Their pace has been tremendous. They had a very successful test at Paul Ricard in the south of France last week. One of the things they were finding, the drivers are both complaining that the car was hard to predict what it was actually going to do going into the corners. Now, last year's car had some special struts to strengthen up the back of the car from the back of the fuel tank area, the monocoque, to the engine. And in the test in Paul Ricard, they tried the same thing with this car, and they found that it worked, and it's given the drivers a lot more confidence in this car. And certainly the proof of the pudding has been in what's been going on the track this weekend. Renault really on top.
Webber doing well down in 8th place. Difficult weekend. His car's been on fire a couple of times. He's in the spare one, had very little time to set it up, but he's just a second behind Barrichello, who's currently 7th. You can just see him in the back of your picture now, chasing the Ferrari. So Mark Webber going very well. 16 runners. Sato outblown engine. Coulthard out, interfered with from behind by Fisichella, who ended up upside down in the 3rd retirement, and Klein crashed on the first lap by tripping over his own front wing as he headed down towards the hairpin.
Trulli then, 1.3 ahead of Alonso. Button 3 seconds back from the race leader. Raikkonen 5 seconds back from the race leader. Michael Schumacher 7 back. And Ted has news for us.
I'm sorry to say this, Mark Webber has a problem. He's just past the bottom of the pits, that is to say, the exit of the swimming pool, going very, very slowly. I think he's made it to Rascasse just, but I think this is a race-ending problem for Mark Webber.
Sorry, Mark, I gave you the Murray Walker curse there. Try not to do it again, and there it is. Well spotted, Ted.
Yeah, it's been a fraught weekend for the whole Jaguar team, particularly Mark Webber's car. Had a fire in the first practice session on Thursday. The marshals didn't seem to want to put it out, and poor old Mark had to get the fire extinguisher himself and put the fire out. That didn't do the engine any good. It was brewed up for well over half a minute. It finally let go yesterday in free practice, and it looks like today more technical difficulties for the Jaguar team on the weekend, when they've got all the movie stars here publicising Oceans 12 painted all over the car, and well, it's not been their day.
It's about Ocean 9 now, I think, unfortunately, for Mark. He's had so many problems.
He'd like to chuck it in the ocean, wouldn't he?
Truly, really fast. He just looks like he's got a better car, having tipped Alonso. And truly has definitely got the better car. Montoya, that's a very early stop, James. So first stop of the afternoon, at the end of lap 13. Truly's put in a blinder, and if that was a genuine need for fuel, then it made his qualifying performance look even worse.
Yep, qualified in 9th place. Juan Montoya seemed strangely slow after the Williams had looked very good earlier on. Louise is with Mark Webber.
Mark, a fraught end to a fraught weekend.
Yeah, we're in very good shape as well. So yeah, it's a big pill to swallow, that one, because we were going very long and we were in really, really good shape. So
what's actually happened?
I don't know, I just lost everything. I tried to reset some sensors and stuff and the buttons, but no luck.
Shame. Thanks, Mark.
Louise, are you on the side of the track? How did you get to him so fast? That would be in the Guinness Book of Records. He's only just broken down.
Yeah, he actually pulled into the little area just on the outside of the Rascasse corner, which leads directly into the paddock, so he was straight into my arms.
Well, this is the woman, don't forget, who managed to elbow all the paparazzi out of the way yesterday to interview Brad Pitt and George Clooney. So Louise doesn't take any prisoners down there. Trulli leads then at the end of lap 14. The pace, a high 1 minute 15 for him. Alonso 0.3 of a second slower than him on that lap. Jenson Button is staying right with them, not letting them get away, and bearing in mind as Pantano makes what looks like an unscheduled pit stop. We had 4 laps, Martin, under the safety car, and that will have allowed the guys to save some fuel. So the strategies have been changing quite a bit. We were expecting them to pit, the front runners, around about lap 17. I guess they've saved a couple of laps of fuel in all of that.
Yeah, probably did, yes, absolutely right. And look, Button is beginning to catch Alonso. Trulli's getting away. So Trulli did a 1:15.9 last time, Button a 1:16.0, and Alonso a 1:16.2. So Trulli looking pretty peerless up there, isn't he? Really looks easy and comfortable, and it's Alonso just doesn't quite have the same setup, it seems, at this stage of the Grand Prix. Let's see how it goes with the different sets of tyres, and as it's so hard here. You've been going, you feel like it's an hour and a half here, and then they hang you a board out that says 50 laps to go, and you cannot believe it.
Well, all the drivers talk about the concentration that's necessary here at Monte Carlo. 77, 78 laps, and there's no let-up at all. There's no way you can relax on this racetrack. It's not like Barcelona, you've got this dirty, great long straight. You can just have a bit of a look, a bit of a breather. Here, you're on the go the whole time, concentrating the whole time.
Absolutely right. Crucial gap then, as it looks like we've got another retiree of Pantano. So 14 runners now then, just the 14 with Webber out of the Grand Prix too. Panis, remember, he started right at the back, he's up to 11th, and he won it in 96 in similar circumstances with everybody falling out and tripping over themselves. Is this, that's the replay, isn't it, of Pantano having struggling out there on the track. I'm sure that's a replay, and he'll come into the pit lane at some point. And Trulli then, now I was trying to say to you, a crucial gap. Trulli is 8 seconds ahead of 5th place man Michael Schumacher.
Well, they were hoping for something like 7 or 8 by the time the first round of pit stops for them came through. So they've got what they wanted, the Renault team. They're past masters at the strategy. Let's not forget that Pat Simmons, who's the senior engineer at Renault, he was Michael Schumacher's race engineer way back when Schumacher raced for the Benetton team, and he's a very, very clever man, is Pat Simmons. Often underestimated in the Formula One paddock, but he's been around a long time and he knows what he's doing, and he very rarely makes wrong tactical calls. I tell you, Martin, a couple of guys who've done very well out of the chaos we had in the early laps are Cristiano Di Matta, who's currently running 7th in the Toyota, and he started 15th on the grid, and Nick Heidfeld, who's up in 9th, he qualified down in 17th on the grid. So they've obviously had a terrific start to this Grand Prix, and Di Matta currently on for 2 World Championship points.
Yeah, you got to keep your nose clean at Monte Carlo. Michael Schumacher then now beginning to show some pace. So there's Barrichello in 6th. He's just about fastest man on that last lap. So the Ferrari beginning to come into the zone. It's not all over by a long way. Trulli and Alonso and Button have got to drive every lap of this Grand Prix like it's a qualifying lap if they want to beat Michael Schumacher this afternoon.
Well, that's what he was saying yesterday afternoon, precisely that. Tomorrow I will be flat out, not one lap can be allowed to go slow or have any kind of problem. It's got to be absolutely flat. But the one thing that really is in the favour of the Renaults is that Michael Schumacher's got this McLaren of Kimi Raikkonen in front of him. At the moment, Raikkonen's pace is 0.6 of a second off that of Jarno Trulli. So every lap they're losing about 0.6 to the race leader, and Trulli able to just edge out that gap a little bit more every time. Let's see what it is now as Schumacher comes across the line. It was 8.6, it's now 7.8, so Trulli not such a good lap for him, and in fact the McLaren and the Ferrari picking the pace right up. Ted?
I tell you why, that's because they've just come upon the Minardis to lap them, and the Minardi's been very slow through the swimming pool and Rascasse, holding them up. That's why Trulli's pace has dropped. You better get past them pretty quick.
Yeah, now Raikkonen and Michael Schumacher have got the same thing, and they're going to have to follow him all the way down into the hairpin, and they too then get held up. You just hesitate. Has he seen me? Has he not? You then just take a risk on it. So the Minardi's well in the way at the moment.
Well, one of them in the way, Baumgartner. Luckily for Schumacher and Raikkonen, the other one, Bruni, who the Renaults had trouble passing, he has just gone into the pits. That's one less thing for these two guys to think about. I said before, Martin, I noticed Schumacher buttering up the Jordan drivers on the drivers' parade, having a nice chat with them, making Pantano feel special. Of course, Pantano's already retired from the Grand Prix, he doesn't have to worry about that, but just an idea of the tactics and psychology, if you like, of Michael Schumacher. Just making the guys, the back markers, feel special. Button then comes into the pits, the first of the front runners on lap 18.
Just as Jarno Trulli puts in a 1:15.5, and so Trulli getting on it. And this is bad news that Jensen really is the first of the main contenders to stop. Raikkonen carries on, as does Michael Schumacher behind him. The two Renaults are out front, so now Jensen needs a great outlap because he really has blinked first of the main contenders this afternoon.
Well, he put a lot of fuel in there, just around 70 kilos of fuel went into his car. That should get him to around about lap 51 or 52 of this Grand Prix, so a very long middle stint then in store for the BAR of Jensen. That's the close eye on fuel goes into the two Renaults. That'll give us an idea of the strategy these guys are playing out.
Every corner counts on these outlaps, just the same as any other lap, of course. It's so easy to just drop back a bit and wait to see what's underneath you in terms of grip and balance. You have got to push every corner on the outlap if he wants to steal a position this afternoon. And Bruni in the pits, they're blanketing up the tyres, so it suggests they think they can fix whatever the problem is.
Maybe they can, we'll find out, but certainly that overtaking, lapping, should we say, of the Minardis did cost Raikkonen and Schumacher dear. At the end of that last lap, they were 9.4 seconds behind the Renault of Jarno Trulli. Now Alonso goes fastest of all, and into the pits comes Kimi Raikkonen.
Now let's watch Michael Schumacher then. He's got some clear air in front of him. He has to do something pretty special now because Renault have picked up the pace. Both drivers in the low 1 minute 15. Raikkonen also pitting relatively early. That would have been a net 17 had he not have had the safety car period.
Now it's absolutely critical that Jenson Button gets past him. I think he has, because Jenson Button's outlap has been absolutely stunning. 1:17.7. That's very, very quick for his first flying lap out of the pits by the BAR driver. So he's comfortably back out in front of Kimi Raikkonen.
Yes, he will be, and will that put him in touch? He was 2.2 seconds adrift of Alonso when he made his stop. We haven't seen the Renaults in yet. They are truly flying as well, excuse the pun, but it's they're on lap 20 then, and they're still pumping in the low 1 minute 15s. This is a crucial part of the Grand Prix. and they're on very hot laps too. They're really driving this nicely. Just a couple of seconds between the two Renaults.
Yeah, but look at Michael Schumacher. He's the fastest man on the racetrack at the moment in Sector 1 and Sector 2. We don't know what the traffic situation is for Schumacher, but this is where he's really starting to put the hammer down and apply maximum pressure to the Renault team, and this is possibly why. Is it him that's coming in for a pit stop? No, I think it's Rubens Barrichello. Yeah, because Michael Schumacher has gone through and set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far, 1:14.976. He's attacking the Renaults as Barrichello stops.
Yeah, but if the Renaults are still maintain low 1 minute 15s, Michael can't do enough damage, certainly at this stop anyway. But it just shows you how much pace he's got, and I think Michael's got a great chance of clearing Kimi Raikkonen here. Raikkonen's outlap was not particularly special, so when Michael makes his stop, I think he's got a great chance of getting ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. Then he's got a run, a clear run at Button and the two Renaults.
Oh, it's going to be very interesting, that the battle for fourth place between Raikkonen and Michael Schumacher before the first round of pit stops. And Schumacher's at it again, his fastest first sector once again. He's absolutely flying around this Monaco racetrack, setting times that a lot of drivers would have been very happy with in qualifying. In fact, the last lap he did would have put him 7th on the grid in qualifying. He's going so quick.
Yeah, and I don't think the track's anything like at its prime either at the moment. So he can't match the Renaults in the middle part of the lap though, James. Even though he is pushing as hard as he is, he doesn't have the speed, I think, to literally outrace him. He'll have to out-tactic them, even with a new fastest lap of 1:14.8. That's still not a record, not as fast as Raikkonen went last year.
No, and the news from the Renault side is that Trulli and Alonso responding. Trulli in particular, his last lap he managed to just give away a couple of tenths of a second. So however hard Michael Schumacher tries, Trulli seems to have the speed to respond at the moment. The margin between them, 9.3 seconds on lap 22.
Massa pits, he was 7th in the Sauber. When is Michael coming in? Anytime soon. We cannot see the pit lane from our commentary box, sadly, so we'll be relying for more information down there. Didn't see his mechanics looking like they're about to pop into the pit lane. No action down in the pit lane at this stage, so Michael relentlessly pushing on, but crucially, James, still 9 seconds adrift of the two Renaults.
Well, I talked about jewellery heists and getaways. This is a standard classic piece of getaway driving here by Jarno Trulli, and in hot pursuit is Michael Schumacher. Lovely if we could ride on board with him a little bit more and just see what a man who is really trying to press on here at Monaco is doing behind the steering wheel of this Ferrari. 5 times a winner here, trying to equal Ayrton Senna's record, 6 Grand Prix victories in Monte Carlo, and he's got his work cut out at the moment.
Yeah, and we think that Button is now tucked up. In fact, he is tucked up behind D'Amata. So bad news, D'Amato's yet to pit. Jensen's early pit stop has put him behind D'Amata in the Toyota, and he's now holding him up. It's costing him dearly. Michael Schumacher, I'm sure, is going to leapfrog Kimi Raikkonen when he stops, and also I think he's got a great chance of being somewhere near Jensen Button.
Well, before Button made his stop, he was 7 seconds in front of Michael Schumacher. And you'd have to say that the longer he gets held up behind Cristiano D'Amata, those seconds evaporating. It was also a long stop by the BAR team. One expects that Michael's stop will be slightly shorter, so certainly things beginning to conspire against Jensen Button and in favour of Michael Schumacher. And if and when he makes this first pit stop, it may well be that his net position in the second phase of this race is 3rd.
It's a sick car just going past the commentary box, but not a sick driver you're watching. Enjoy this stage of the Grand Prix. A master at work. These are brilliant laps that Michael Schumacher's putting in. His car's not really fast enough to win this Grand Prix straight this afternoon, but he is absolutely driving the wheels of it, and he's going to bring himself right into contention. A 14.4, a new lap record then for Michael. When I say it's not fast, I think the Renaults have got just a better raw pace in the middle part of the lap. Michael's just driving the wheels of it. They've got to respond. D'Amata pits and hopefully releases then Jensen Button.
Yeah, very good news for Jensen Button, whose last lap was almost 2 seconds slower than Michael Schumacher. Schumacher did a 14.4, Button a 16.2. It could well have cost him his net 3rd place in this Grand Prix. Schumacher at the moment in 3rd place then. Trulli, Alonso, Schumacher. As we look at Ralf Schumacher, who's down in 12th place. He had a very good qualifying yesterday. did Ralf Schumacher, but having changed an engine on Thursday after practice, he had to lose 10 places on the grid under the new rules for 2004, and that's ruined his Grand Prix weekend.
Yeah, and he's lapping very slowly, so I suspect Ralf Schumacher got caught up in that Fisichella Coulthard shunt at the in the early start. Truly pits from the lead then. Important part of the Grand Prix. At the end of lap 23, Michael Schumacher was just 8.6 seconds adrift. Don't think Michael's going to take the lead here, but he could easily move up to third place. Away, looked a solid stop.
Well, it would be, because the Renault team, if it's all been measured, and they are the fastest pit stops of the year so far. They've got everything very well drilled and well oiled of the Renault team, and a highly motivated Jarno Trulli rejoins the racetrack at Saint-Devote. Alonso then is the new race leader. He has yet to make a stop. Michael Schumacher hasn't stopped either, and Schumacher not quite so quick on this lap, Martin. His pace is dropping off slightly. It's only relative, I know, but we've seen him lap after lap after lap, setting new fastest laps of the race, but one wonders whether perhaps he's got a little traffic now to deal with.
Well, he's still doing enough. He's, you could see where he was, it got a sight of the back of Alonso when we saw them earlier on. That's truly we're looking at the moment in the Renault. He's pitted and come back out into third place. I think Jenson Button lost out badly in all of that with traffic. The key thing now is how close will Michael be to the Renaults after his stop, and Alonso pits then. So Michael, Ted is down there.
Yes, Fernando Alonso comes in. Unfortunate, I don't think he's racing Jenson Button. I think Button's only racing Michael Schumacher anymore. There's a little problem on the left rear, but all the tyres are off. All the new ones are on. Let's have a look. That's longer fill than Trulli. Still a very good stop by the Renault boys.
Wow, so slick. It's like clockwork, isn't it? And you can see he came in behind the Toyota and he leaves in front of it. Good night, game, set and match.
And that was important too. Trulli goes through to lead. You just saw him flash through your picture. There's Alonso. There'll be 1-2. The key thing, Michael, well, yes, you're right, James, pointed out, Michael is leading because he hasn't pitted yet. But the key thing for me is when Michael does pit, does he come out in front of or behind Jenson Button? Surely, I'm sure he's going to be ahead of Kimi Räikkönen.
Well, let's have a look at it. Lap 26 then. Michael Schumacher is leading, and Button is 23.7 seconds behind him at the moment in fourth place, and you need 24 seconds to make a pit stop here and rejoin in front of the man in front of you. So it's absolutely touch and go at the moment. If Schumacher stops any time now, it's going to be very, very close indeed whether he gets back out in front. I can see the Ferrari mechanics just in the top of your screen there, ready for Michael Schumacher, I think. Is he coming in this time? Yes, he is. OK, Button's got to push now if he wants this. Hopefully the team will have radioed him. It's going to be very tight on the exit here.
I wonder if they'll even just short fill him a little bit on this one, James, to give him track position. Fill him no more, absolutely no more than they have to. There are the Renaults. They'll be going through 1 and 2. Michael's away, though, isn't he? He's away already. Pit lane speed limiter's going to hold him back. One Renault goes past into the lead. The second one surely will make it too, but only just. And where is Button? Button's behind. He has indeed got through. Michael, I'm sure, has got ahead of Jenson Button and Kimi Räikkönen. There's Jenson at the bottom of the hill. That is why Michael's laps were so brilliant. He's leapfrogged a couple of key drivers. Now he's got clear sight of Renault, and they'll all be shaking in their boots.
Yeah, and they'll be disappointed down at BAR. Those couple of laps that they spent behind Cristiano Di Matta there were crucial. Button lost 2 seconds in one lap alone on that. And really, that's all he needed, didn't he? Another couple of seconds and he'd have been in front of Michael Schumacher. He didn't have them, and now he's behind him. And Schumacher, you can never, ever count out Michael Schumacher.
So completely game on. Do not leave your seats at home, because this is going to be a thrilling race. Can the Renault drivers, who I think have got well out of shape there, for Jarno Trulli, that is how hard he knows he's got to push, because I think, as I keep saying, I think they've got overall a slightly better package, but they're going to have to wring its neck like Michael Schumacher is.
Well, absolutely, because what Schumacher will want to do will be to get as close as possible for the second round of pit stops and then spring his trap again. But this time he's got 2 Renaults he's got to play with. Will they play any kind of tactical games with him, I wonder? They're 1 and 2 at the moment, and this Grand Prix is shaping up to be an absolute classic. Lap 30 of the Monaco Grand Prix. Jarno Trulli leading Fernando Alonso. Nick Heidfeld there battling with Juan Montoya, and looks like Montoya has got past him. Those two have been having a ding-dong for the last couple of laps. That's the battle for 7th and 8th places. Heidfeld having pitted under the safety car, and here's another look at what happened. You can see coming.
Yeah, Heidfeld got out of shape into the top Mirabeau corner, and it was an easy pass in the end, but Montoya really been working hard to get past what was 7th place man Heidfeld. And Ted has news for us on Kimi Räikkönen.
Down at McLaren, Kimi Räikkönen has retired. He's out of the Monaco Grand Prix. The team saw something on the telemetry. Something was not right. And when he came in, they were paying attention to the rear of the car. There was a lot of heat, smoke coming out of the back. I don't want to say it's engine if I don't know, and we don't know at this moment, but it's going to be either engine or gearbox. Still, a lot of heat coming out of the back of that car, smoke in the garage. But that's it, another retirement for Kimi Räikkönen.
Bad news for McLaren then, both cars out of the Grand Prix. Coulthard run into the back of by Fisichella early on, and now technical problems for Räikkönen. The race has stabilised a little bit at the moment. Truly, 2.7 seconds ahead of Alonso, who's just shaving his lead bit by bit. Michael Schumacher, 7 seconds behind leader, Truly. Button lost heavily in the pit stops, the traffic, but is now back very much on the race pace, James. Barrichello, a rather lonely 5th place, 21 seconds behind Button, 36 seconds off the lead. De Mata in the Toyota, 6th. Montoya now 7th. Heidfeld, Massa, Ralf Schumacher, who's lapping very slowly, Panis, who started from the pit lane, and Baumgartner. Only 12 runners with 47 laps to go.
Well, you have to say the BAR team really have raised their game tremendously in terms of engine power. The whole package has been so much stronger and more competitive, but one area they still do give an awful lot away is in the whole pit stop sequence. It's not their fault that Button got stuck behind Cristiano De Mata when he came out of his pit stop, but nevertheless, clearly they lost a lot of time, 7 seconds to Michael Schumacher in those pit stop sequence.
Worst case scenario here, trying to lap 2 drivers who are fighting each other tooth and nail. Massa spotted it and lets Truly through. And can Alonso gain from that too? Heidfeld, I think, will be fairly well behaved, but nonetheless, this costs you serious time when you're tucked up in the dirty air of another car heading towards what is already a difficult section, the blind crest into Massenet. And look, Truly getting held up too, so Heidfeld probably not as well behaved as he should have been, and he's still not about to get out of the way, and now he does, but Truly having to get on to the dirty part of the grid. Alonso getting squeezed up against the barrier. Has Heidfeld seen him? Yes, he has, and now Heidfeld's in danger of losing a place. And look how close Michael Schumacher is now, as they've lost so much time.
It was 7 seconds at the end of the last lap. It looks like an awful lot less, although Michael Schumacher has got to try and pass them. Are going to come out of the tunnel. If he can get at least one of them into the chicane, that would be good for Michael Schumacher. Let's have a quick look at the racing cars, please, Mr. Director. Where's Schumacher? No, he hasn't got either on yet. So the Sauber, that'll get quick the way, Ferrari, I think. Yes, it does. And now he comes up behind the Jordan through the slowest part of the racetrack, the swimming pool and the Rascasse. He really does want to clear that Jordan as quickly as possible. And the Renaults want him to take as long as possible over it.
Well, at least it might allow Jenson Button to get a bit closer to them. We'll see. He's certainly in some clear air at the moment in 4th place and homing in on the leading trio. So it was a 1:17.6, cost them 2.5 seconds the traffic, cost Alonso over 3 seconds, and Michael Schumacher too. Button now just 9 seconds off the lead and 4 seconds behind Michael, but of course he has got to clear the traffic. Only 12 runners.
Well, there's a bit of an advantage for Button because Heidfeld came into the pits then, so he hasn't got to clear him at all. So that's good news for Jenson Button. The cards for once falling nicely for him here at Monaco, and that's a gain for him. He's now just 3.9 seconds behind Michael Schumacher. He's halved the gap to the Ferrari, and there he is, you can see. Just got that Sauber to get through then. Now, what happened tactically here is quite interesting. Michael Schumacher pitted 2 laps after race leader Jarno Trulli, and we think he took on 1 or 2 laps more fuel in that stop, maybe even 3. Difficult to tell, but certainly took on more fuel than the Renault driver, and that means that in that second round of stops, as they approach, he's got to get as close as he possibly can to the Renault, and then put another sequence of those amazing, dazzling laps he put in the run-up to his own first stop last time in order to leapfrog him. Can he do it? It's a tall order.
With fuel on board and in the early stages of each stint, Michael just can't match the Renaults for pace. But obviously, as that fuel load goes down, the car comes to him nicely and he can start sprinting. Probably taking a touch of a breather at the moment after those amazing laps. But he is now 6.6 seconds adrift, and once again, the Renault's just edging off into the distance. Button, 3.5 seconds behind him. Come on, Jensen.
Absolutely. Trulli then on lap 34. It's been such an eventful Grand Prix, what with Panis not lining up on the grid, and we had an aborted start. Then after we got the race started, we had a big accident involving David Coulthard and Giancarlo Fisichella at the Tabac corner. Fisichella flipped upside down as they both tried to avoid the smoke pouring out of the back of Takuma Sato's BAR Honda. We had the safety car period, and then finally when we went green flag racing, we had 2 Renaults ahead of Button, Raikkonen and Michael Schumacher. Schumacher has been mesmerising in this Grand Prix. A sequence of stunning laps in the run-up to his first pit stop. And now we're in the quiet phase of the middle phase of the race before it all hots up again.
Jarno Trulli starts lap 35. He's just done a 1:15.4. Alonso a 1:16.1. Michael Schumacher a 1:16.1. Trulli stretching himself out front. Button a 1:16.2. So relatively even Stevens on that for second, third and fourth. But Trulli 2.6 seconds clear at the front now.
Into the Casino Square we go. 130 miles an hour then. 70 at the apex, down the hill towards Mirabeau, going from 130 miles an hour down to 40. In just second gear goes Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari. This is the slowest corner in Formula One. First gear, 25 miles an hour. The lows hairpin, and then down the hill towards the tunnel. There's Jenson Button in hot pursuit through the Portier corner, and a line from Ted.
Well, I've been into Williams to ask them what Ralf Schumacher's problem is. They say he has got a problem, but we can't tell you what it is. The engine sounds fine, so I think it's one of 2 things. Either he's got a gearbox problem, a brake problem, or it's actually one more thing. Maybe it's the tyres. Maybe the tyres are wearing out. Because under that safety car, they pitted him and switched him to a one-stop strategy. So he's done 34 laps on these tyres. They might be wearing out.
No, I don't think it is that, Ted. I can understand you going through that process, but he's coming past the commentary box. Would you mind up by here? You're on the other side of the track, but just coasting, really low revs down the pit straight, as if he's protecting something on that front. But on board then with what must be Jenson Button, of course, the only remaining BAR. And can we see the Ferrari on the top of the hill just about up there, and Louise has found Kimi Raikkonen.
Yeah, a lot of drivers electing to stay over in the garages and watch the race, but Kimi's made his way back to the paddock. Kimi, what can you tell us? We saw smoke coming out of the back of the car. Any idea what it was? We saw smoke coming out of the back of your car. What can you tell us?
We got some sort of problem with, I think, hydraulic pressures, and that caused us to stop the race. Otherwise, the engine would have let go anyway.
Just tell us a bit about that accident in the early stages.
Which accident?
Giancarlo Fisichella's accident. I mean, how difficult was it for everybody trying to drive through the smoke from Sato's car?
I don't know. I was the first one behind him, so I didn't see anything, but I just went through, so I need to ask from them.
Thanks, Kimi.
Undoubtedly the line of the day, which accident, but he was in front of it at the time. But anyway, Jarno Trulli 3.1 seconds up. You're on board with Jenson Button heading down towards Raskas, which is much easier now. They made a straight run into it. That was a dry tongue and lump in your throat every time as you tried to downshift, brake, turn in. Now they've eased it a little bit, and Jenson goes over the line. He's just 2.6 behind Michael now, but 9.8 away from the lead. There's a conspiracy theory in the paddock, isn't there, that Renault might use Alonso to hold up Michael Schumacher, and that started floating around Friday, Saturday. But if it's right, James, they've got the perfect opportunity to do that. Alonso could back Michael Schumacher up this afternoon and give Trulli a free run.
Well, you'd have to say if they did do that, although both drivers say they wouldn't do it under any circumstances when you asked them a direct question, and Trulli said he wouldn't want to win it that way, but well, Michael Schumacher wouldn't exactly complain, would he? They've certainly played some tactics in their time, the Ferrari team, and there's certainly a degree of logic to it. Whether or not you could say it was deliberate. At the moment, let's have a look at what they've been doing. The last lap for Trulli was quite slow. I think he was lapping another car, but in the run-up to that, the 3 laps leading up to the last lap, we saw Trulli about 6 or 7 tenths of a second a lap faster than Alonso, who appeared to be certainly appearing not on the same pace quite as Jarno Trulli. So whether or not he's building up for something, I don't know, as Button scythes past the Minardi.
12 cars in the race. but 8 of them are only out there to make a noise, while the other 4 are leaders around the other side of the racetrack, because there's only 4 men in this Grand Prix now. Truly Alonso, Michael Schumacher and Jenson Button. Barrichello, don't know what's happened to him lately, but he's a half a minute away from Button in 5th place, and none of them have any particular pace, although Montoya picking his speed up quite nicely. He's back in 7th, having had a very early pit stop. But the 4 of them then, all with a great chance this afternoon still, with 40 laps remaining. Not even at half distance, James.
I know. Well, I don't know about Barrichello. It's his 32nd birthday today, so maybe he's had a bit too much birthday cake or something and doesn't really on it. But certainly it's a strange performance by Rubens Barrichello. No doubt about that. 42 seconds already behind the race leader with only half the Grand Prix run, and he is driving a Ferrari after all. Trulli then 2.4 up on Alonso. Schumacher 5 seconds behind the second of the 2 Renaults. Jenson Button closing him down at the moment.
You know what really strikes me looking at this Grand Prix and this season so far? Renault, Ferrari and BAR, 3 teams that really have a good concord, a good feeling and working relationship within the team. No politics, nobody on the exit route, and really no internal political squabbles. 3 teams that are just focused on performance, and look how much it's showing up.
I'll tell you what's interesting as well, they say one of the most important things in a Formula 1 team is stability, and certainly the Ferrari success of the last 6 years is a great example of that. But Renault lost a key player over the winter when Mike Gascoigne, the technical director, jumped ship and went over to Toyota, and a lot of people felt that the Renault team wouldn't enjoy the same success in 2004 that they had last year, because well, Gascoigne's a pretty big player, let's face it. But Bob Bell, who's taken over as technical director, hats off to you, Bob, because this team is firing on all cylinders and looking very strong at the moment, and that's quite an achievement to come in. And Ralph is in the pit lane.
Ted.
Yeah, you're right about the tyres. The tyres were fine. I was just listening to see what it is. The engine's still going. I think it's probably a hydraulics or a gearbox. I think he's only got a few gears in that Williams gearbox.
Yeah, you could be right. I noticed he fumbled a gear shift past us a couple of laps ago too. So Ralph clearly with an ailing car, and his teammate coming up the hill to lap him, actually.
Yeah. Ralf Schumacher appeared to have been involved in that incident with Coulthard and Fisichella, the accident around the Takuma Sato retirement, and certainly made a lengthy pit stop at that point. That's one of the reasons why Ralf Schumacher is so far behind in this Grand Prix. Down in 10th place at the moment. The other reason, of course, being that he started 12th on the grid, having had to change an engine during the course of the Grand Prix weekend. Here's the 2 race leaders then. Alonso closer to Trulli now. So any theories of him easing off, quickly disproven. They're both lapping exactly the same pace, a mid 1 minute 15, which is the identical pace of Michael Schumacher as well.
No, they're asleep, not because they're lazy, because they've just been working so hard. It's so hot here and it's a difficult environment. And did Alonso get past the Toyota coming into, otherwise you're going to lose a bundle of time there. He just started to home in on Trulli's lead. Alonso putting a bit of a spurt on, although the top 4 still remain pretty even Stevens on lap time. And yes, he did just about get past the Toyota. Alonso in 2nd place to lap him, but I think he's cost him dearly. Let's have a look. 2 or 3 tenths only, so Alonso lives for another day. The lead just 2.1 seconds truly to Alonso. Michael Schumacher a further 5.4 seconds down the road in 3rd. Button within 10 seconds of the lead and with 2.5 of Michael, and he's just done his fastest lap of the race, James. So Jenson happy with the track, happy with his car.
Happy generally. We're riding with the 2nd place man, Fernando Alonso, into the Lowe's hairpin.
You lean. I always lean when we're on board. I don't know, that's stupid.
I noticed that.
I lean my head over, as if I'm there.
Louise is down in the garage with poor old David Coulthard, who was involved, hit very hard at the back by Fisichella. How's he feeling, Lou?
I don't suppose he's feeling too happy, James. But let's ask the man himself. David, not much you could do about that, really, was there?
No, it was just an unfortunate situation, but I have to say Sato was smoking on the way to the on the parade lap. He also jumped the start by a mile, absolutely no question, because I almost went with him when he moved. So I'm very surprised there wasn't something there, and he continued to smoke. So I know it's not normally a policy to retire a car until there's a problem, but you can see that the team have retired Kimi because they can see eventually the engine is going to blow. The consequences of that around Monaco are pretty dire, and you can see there with zero visibility behind Sato's blow-up, it was very dangerous for other cars. So I think it's just an example of Bar being a young team, and you know, they're growing, they're doing a great job in terms of performance, but sometimes you just need to say, look, we can see on the data the engine isn't going to make it, and we were all very lucky today not to have a serious accident.
Were you surprised at the speed that Fisichella came into the back of you at?
Yeah, I couldn't see anything in the smoke, you know. I was thinking of that Days of Thunder movie where they say go high and all that sort of thing, but I actually thought the blow-up would be on the right-hand side, but as you can see on the screen now, if I kept going on the right-hand side, that's where Sato would stop. You couldn't see anything, so I think Fizzy just took too big a risk, and you know, it's obviously very disappointing. I love this circuit, and it was...
Whoa, sorry to interrupt you. We've got Fernando
laps.
Alonso who's gone off. It looks like he's come out of the tunnel backwards, and a very big impact for the Renault driver. Second place, Fernando Alonso. And
safety car is out. Safety car on the track. Alonso's dropped it on the exit of the tunnel. I wonder if he clipped that curb under braking. That is so odd for him to have. No, look, let's watch this. Oh, he's gone offline, passing a car in the tunnel, got on the marbles and straight in the wall. So he's had his accident in the middle of the tunnel, lapping the Williams. And I have to say, that's a pretty inexperienced thing to do, to try to go round the outside of somebody in the tunnel. It's always going to be filthy dirty out there. And he's having his accident and still giving the Williams driver the bird. Amazing.
Well, that's an indication of how angry he is. Into the pits then comes Jenson Button. This is out of the pits, in fact, playing a tactical game then. He's made a quick pit stop, presumably his last one of the day. There's quite a bit of debris here to be cleared up, and that's dropped Button a long way back behind Michael Schumacher, but there Alonso clearly unhappy with Ralf Schumacher.
Well, maybe he was holding him up earlier on in the race, and I don't know if Alonso lost his head or maybe thought, hey, one brother's helping the other here, but you do not go around the outside of somebody in the tunnel. Not maybe once, never would you attempt to do that.
Just explain what you mean about the marbles and stuff on the outside of the...
Just all the rubbish and debris, and the obviously they have very high tyre wear, as truly the leader pits, very high tyre wear, and all those bits of rubber get flicked off, particularly in the high-speed areas, and it just congregates on the outside of the racetrack. And away he goes then. So now, and that's extra bad news for Jarno Trulli. Now he doesn't have a rear gunman at all to fend off Michael Schumacher,
who has gone through, did not pit under the safety car, Michael Schumacher, and he leads the Grand Prix here in Monaco. There you can see they've picked up now, finally, they've picked up the safety car, and it looks like there's one car between Trulli and Michael Schumacher.
Yeah, and I think Ferrari will feel they've made a mistake there, because he got so quickly picked up by the safety car. Trulli's pitted and had a net loss of nothing virtually. He'll be straight with him. And look, you can see the rubbish I'm talking about on the outside of the racetrack, and he's going to have an almighty shunt. It wasn't that it spun, it just understeered clean off into the wall, and I can tell you that's pretty scary at 180 miles an hour. Now watch this, he's still a long way from finishing his lap, and he's saying, that's the last time you're going to do that to me, my friend, but I'm afraid you shouldn't have done that. He'll feel, though, having said that, I need to watch that again. Did Ralf lift in the tunnel? Because that's also pretty stupid, unless, of course, he's got a gear shift problem.
Well, he certainly braked pretty quickly after Alonso hit the wall. Ralf Schumacher knocked all the speed off that car, because Trulli came out backwards in front of the Williams, even having hit the wall. So that's an incident they'll be talking about after the race with Jim and Marcantoni, and for many weeks to come as well. A very angry Alonso retires. That's the order. Still a lot of racing to go here in Monaco. "33 laps to go here in Monte Carlo. This is the reason why we're behind a safety car. Ralf Schumacher there on the left. Alonso goes to lap him, gets offline, gets on the dirty stuff, little bits of rubber and dirt and dust, and it hits the wall very hard, 180 miles an hour. There you can see it, the impact with the outside wall. Ralf Schumacher rubs off speed there, and certainly the anger of Alonso after the incident would suggest that caught him by surprise. Martin Brundle says but it's a crazy thing to do, go around the outside, and that's an incident we'll be talking about for a long time. The upshot of it is we're behind a safety car. Jarno Trulli, who was leading the Grand Prix in front of Alonso at that point, he made a pit stop under the safety car. It's a less expensive time, if you want, in time to make a pit stop. Ferrari and Michael Schumacher have not done that. They are leading the Grand Prix, and the restart will be any moment now. The safety car in this lap.
Yes, the safety car picks up whoever comes along, and then it lets those runners through that have been lapped until they get to the leader, who is Michael Schumacher. It worked beautifully for Jarno Trulli. He pitted, came back out, but they'd all been bunched up behind the safety car just at the top of the hill, and immediately got back into, he's now obviously running there to one car behind Michael Schumacher. So I think this has worked out very nicely for Jarno Trulli, even though he doesn't have track position right now. Ted.
This is bad news for Michael Schumacher's strategy. He wasn't in his pit stop window, Martin. He's been forced to stay out. This could really hurt him. Quits in, he'll try and streak away at the getaway at the restart, try and get some distance on Jensen. But Jensen doesn't have to stop again. Of course, he did stop under the safety car.
Yeah, and I think fuel windows go out of the window when there's a safety car like this, and the safety car period.
Oh, hang on, this is Michael Schumacher. Michael Schumacher has had an incident in the tunnel, has hit the wall and has knocked off his left front wheel, and Michael Schumacher is out of the Monaco Grand Prix. What on earth happened there? We're not even racing.
It's a big impact too. Has he been trying to warm his tyres up? The safety car was in this lap, we know. Michael's been trying to get some heat in the tyres and brakes, and a big impact with the front of... Was that another car he passed down there too?
Like it was probably Fisichella's car. They pulled back, is it? I don't know.
Yeah, Alonso, maybe Alonso's Renault. But the race is underway then. Michael Schumacher, I'm absolutely sure, will be out of the race for that one with the damage to the front suspension. Well, hopefully they've got it somewhere on tape, and we can see what on earth went on. Did he get caught up in some debris in the tunnel from Alonso's incident? Schumacher then, with an error, getting ready to restart the race. Here we go, and there's the safety car, and Michael's locked up his left front and squeezed somebody against the barrier who spins him out. Montoya was going for it, didn't realise that the Mercedes car had slowed down and caught Michael Schumacher, who spears off into the wall that Alonso has recently scarred anyway. That was triggered by Montoya.
Well, what a bizarre incident. Absolutely extraordinary. You saw Michael Schumacher locking up his brakes there. So clearly whatever the safety car was doing, it caught Schumacher by surprise. Maybe he put a little squirt on and then he hit the brakes. I mean, Montoya... Michael was on the brakes when Montoya hit him.
Here we go again, and Michael's trying to warm the tyres up. He then backs off. The safety car's gone quite slow then. Michael's really having to slow down. Montoya just couldn't do any... It was Montoya, I think, couldn't do anything about it, and he just was carrying too much speed. And there you see it all happening behind the safety car. Not a lot Michael could do about that. They all got sucked into pushing in the tunnel, and it's... The camera sees better in there than the human eye. Michael Schumacher then in the pits, Ted.
Yeah, Michael absolutely furious, talking to his engineer Chris Dyer. All the Williams guys were standing outside their garage, almost willing him to come on, saying, come on, come down if you want to have a word with us, come down. But Michael's staying cool. Jean Todt now getting in there. I'm sure Jean Todt will have words with Williams, because that is very unfortunate. Helmet off. The run comes to an end for Michael Schumacher then.
So both incidents involving the two Williams drivers. Alonso's incident involving Ralf Schumacher in the tunnel, and just a couple of laps later, under the safety car, the Williams of Juan Montoya involved in this incident with Michael Schumacher. Oh, I think that was Michael's helmet hitting the wall.
It's so easy. I have to say it's so easy. Even Jenson Button did that. As you remember, he ran into Michael back in 2000, warming his tyres up. The acceleration of these cars is so incredible, even if you've won as many races as Michael Schumacher's 75, and it can just catch you out. If suddenly the whole lot backs up, you're busy looking and sorting yourself out, bang, and it's a pathetic feeling. But I guess the blame lays at the door of Montoya there, although Michael himself was pretty much struggling to slow down. Underway we go, truly, from Button and Barrichello. Montoya went round in fourth, but quite slowly on that first lap. Has he got some damage? D'Amata fifth, Massa sixth, Heidfeld, Ralf Schumacher and Panis. 9 runners, and now 10 with Baumgartner out there somewhere.
Well, what a race this is turning out to be. We were writing off the chances of Rubens Barrichello about half an hour ago. 40 seconds down on the race leader he was. Now, he's only made one pit stop compared to the 2 of Trulli and Button, but he's only 8 seconds behind the race leader in the sole remaining Ferrari and 3.4 behind Jenson Button. A great opportunity then for Jarno Trulli and Jenson Button to win their first Grand Prix, but opportunity well and truly knocked for Michael Schumacher, and that's one angry man making his way back to the paddock. And well, hopefully Louise will dive in for a word. She's a brave girl.
You can't win them all, Michael, but what impresses me about him is he'll be taking so much pain from that. He does want to win them all, but no, your eyes do not deceive you. Trulli is leading, Button is second. That Williams and between them has, and there are several cars, has been lapped. So Jenson Button's got to make his way past some lap traffic before he can get anywhere near race leader Jarno Trulli. Now he's 6 seconds adrift. Jenson's got 2 Williams, 2 lapped Williams between himself and Jarno Trulli.
And we all know it's not the easiest thing this weekend, or certainly this afternoon, to deal with these Williams. They've both been involved in these incidents. Here we are then, on board with Jenson Button, trying to win our first Monaco Grand Prix, trying to win our first Grand Prix at all. And coming up behind Ralf Schumacher, former teammate of Jenson Button's at Williams back in the 2000 season. Getting the blue flags is Ralf. Oh, here we go in the tunnel. Pulls well over this time, no such luck.
He slowed right down at the beginning. That's how to do it. If you're going to slow down in the tunnel, do it very early and very slowly. You can't coast through there. In fairness to Ralf, I think he does have some, well, we know he's got some kind of drama going on inside the cockpit, but that is how you let somebody through in the tunnel, not how he did it with Alonso.
Cristiano Di Matta, we saw just lining up behind them. That's Jock Clare, I believe, race engineer for Takuma Sato, who's presumably now working on Jenson Button's race effort.
Where was he? Was he down at Williams?
Yes.
Right, he was down at Williams saying, hey, make sure you're telling your guys on the radio, let Jenson through, please. He's passed one of them already.
Well, he carries a bit of weight at Williams, does Jock Clare, having worked there for many, many years. Race engineer to Jacques Villeneuve in the championship-winning season of '97. They all know Jock pretty well. Here we go then, up the hill, 160 miles an hour, turning left into Massenet then, and the Casino Square, all the rich people hanging out from their balconies, the Café de Paris on the right, down the hill, the tip-top restaurant famous on the right-hand side there, the Mirabeau corner, and the Monte Carlo Grand Hotel, as it's now known, formerly known as the Lowe's. And Ted has some news for us at Williams.
Yeah, Montoya's been on the radio to explain his side. He sounded almost apologetic, I'm told, from the team. He didn't understand what Michael was doing. Apparently, Michael just stood on the brakes to try and get some temperature into them. And Montoya just plain didn't see him, tried to avoid him. But of course, the Mercedes safety car was in there, and Michael sort of tripped over that, and Montoya just went straight into him, almost sounded sorry.
Yes, if Michael had seen him coming, because he actually then squeezed Montoya. But I have to say, they both needed to slow down for the safety car too. It looked like the safety car slowed as well. But there's already been a bit of a head-to-head, hasn't there, with Montoya and Michael. They're not the best of friends by a long, long way. And that is not going to enhance it at all.
We've got a drive-through penalty for car number 16. That is Cristiano Di Matta. What a shame for him. I mentioned him earlier on. He had a terrific start to this Grand Prix. Got himself up from 15th on the grid to 7th earlier on. He's now, as a result of all these retirements of Alonso and Michael Schumacher, was up in 5th place, but ignoring the blue flags as Trulli and Button came through, costing him a drive-through penalty. That's about 20 seconds that's going to cost him, and that will drop him down probably into 8th place.
Amazingly, despite having been involved in everybody else's incidents today, Williams have got 2 cars running in 4th and 8th, both in the World Championship points, and that is why Ralf is plodding around with an obvious problem, because you can still pick up some World Championship points. It's always the case at Monaco. You've got to just keep going round and round. 26 laps remaining then. Truly 6.7 ahead of Button, and quite quickly Barrichello, who's really been off the pace for whatever reason, maybe something inside the car, but Barrichello in 3rd, 15 seconds behind already.
You can see Sauber getting out of the way of Rubens Barrichello. He's dropping behind now. His last lap almost 3 seconds slower than the race leaders Trulli and Button. Button is 6.7 behind Jarno Trulli, and at the moment doesn't seem to have the pace in the BAR, although that last lap he took half a second out of him, I have to say. So is Button muscling up for a real hard push at the Renault driver. We're riding on board with third-place man Rubens Barrichello, giving away another second and a half there to the race leaders.
That's another aspect. You saw him go into the shadow of the canopy of the trees and not trees, but buildings, apartment buildings down there. It really does, and again at Casino Square, as the race unfolds, the track sort of changes in front of you, James, in terms of grip level, in terms of the shadows, and it's just another feature of this brilliant racetrack.
10 runners still going then. Trulli, Button, Barrichello, Montoya, D'Amato 5th, yet to serve his drive-through penalty. Massa 6th, 7th Heidfeld and 8th Ralf Schumacher. Good news for the Jordan team if Heidfeld can stay there. That'll be their first World Championship points of the season so far. And it'll be the first points also for the Toyota team if D'Amato can salvage something from this afternoon. He's in 5th at the moment, but yet to serve that drive-through penalty. Ralf Schumacher in 8th place. Olivier Panis is 9th. And Zsolt Baumgartner in the sole remaining Minardi. 3 laps down, lapping in the 1:24s, where Trulli's doing 1:17s. But he's still going, and he's in 10th. And if we have any more business like we've had in the race so far, he might even get a point here this afternoon.
He might indeed. As you say, 10 runners. D'Amato's pitted to serve his penalty for ignoring the blue flags, i.e. not getting out of the way of the leaders at some point during the Grand Prix. Out of the race, Michael Schumacher, who had one of those incidents like pulling away from a roundabout and stopping and somebody just running into the back of you, didn't he, in the tunnel? Michael out, Alonso trying to lap Ralf Schumacher, went round the outside of him in the tunnel. Raikkonen, technical problems. Bruni, he stopped in the pits, we don't know why. Same for Pantano, he stopped out at the Seafront chicane where Jarno Trulli is now. Webber, mechanical problems at the end of the lap. Sato, big blown engine. Coulthard, run into the back of by Fisichella, and Klein crashed on the first lap. They're the 10 retirements, and the reasons for them, truly 6.1 seconds ahead of Jenson Button. Barrichello remains an easy and comfortable third.
Yeah, the last lap, Trulli comes through now, but the last lap they were identical on pace, Trulli and Button, very low 1:17s. That last lap almost identical again. Trulli has had this reputation in the past for letting his pace drop off in Grand Prix, but no such trouble here this afternoon. He's found some new speed and consistency in his driving, has Jarno Trulli. And Jenson Button at the moment has no real reply. He's going as fast as he can. Their lap times are within 1/10 of each other at the moment, and that's why the gap is staying at around about 6, just under 6 seconds.
I still think Ferrari had made a mistake, though, in that pit stop, James. They ended up being the leader, is what caused the accident, but you couldn't foresee that. But, you know, Trulli was right there with him, had changed tyres, got a tank of fuel, and saved himself a 20-second stop. I think Ferrari will feel, and we're never going to know now, but I think they'll feel they made quite a critical error there.
Well, I mean, we talk about pit stop windows, but we reckon that Trulli was probably about 6 laps away from his second fuel stop. So Renault obviously decided it was worth making the call and bringing him in. Michael Schumacher, we reckon, had perhaps another 3 or 4 laps of fuel in his car. So maybe he was 10 laps away from his second stop. Obviously, Ross Brawn and the Ferrari team deciding that that was not the right timing for them, as Ferrari ready for Rubens Barrichello, whose strategy this afternoon, once again, as it was in Barcelona, quite different from everybody else's, carrying more fuel at the start of the Grand Prix and pitting at a different time from the other front runners.
So one remaining Ferrari then, Michael Schumacher out of the Grand Prix. He will not be beating Nigel Mansell's. He's matched it, but he will not be beating Mansell's record of making it 6 consecutive wins. Barrichello pits from third. He's way ahead of Montoya, who's fourth. Montoya lapping about the same speed as Trulli and Button now, so he's obviously had no damage with that collision with Michael. Most of Michael's damage was done against the wall rather than against Montoya. But Jenson Button has just taken 0.6%, 10% out of the lead of Jarno Trulli. He's now down to 5.5 behind.
Jenson's on a charge. Hopefully we'll follow it soon. And you'd have to say that Patrick Head and Frank Williams, sitting down there in the Williams garage, will be looking at Montoya's pace and saying, hang on a second, this is lap 56, the Monaco Grand Prix. We've got a car that's on the same pace as the race leaders. Why aren't we leading the race ourselves? What's gone wrong with us this weekend? That Montoya and Ralf Schumacher qualified 9th and 12th. They just haven't been really in it at all, and yet the car seems to have plenty of speed in it. Obviously not at the right times when it really matters, is the answer to that.
Yep, Montoya Trulli lapping now in the 1:16. He's almost seems to have backed off. He was able to do 1:15s earlier on. There's a lot of debris. Here you're going to see a replay of the incident. Michael Schumacher with his left front locked. He is actually a long way behind that safety car from that angle. So it was Michael giving himself some brake warming up in the tunnel. Now that is not actually very smart, is it? I don't know about the distances, the relative distances. I wondered if that Mercedes slowed down the pace car, but actually it looks more like Michael was trying to warm his brakes up in the tunnel. If so, he doesn't have a word to say to Juan Pablo Montoya.
Why would he be warming his brakes up in the tunnel, or anywhere for that matter?
Well, because they'll be around 300 degrees centigrade, coasting around 250, something like that, coasting around behind the safety car, and they need to be 600-700 to work properly, and you've got to get some brake temperature in. You saw how easy he just snatched a brake trying to warm them up in the tunnel itself, but there's no brake lights on a Formula One car. You don't know when the bloke in front of you is braking.
But doesn't it rely on the guy behind having sort of telepathic knowledge you're about to do it, especially when they're that close as they were in a tunnel? It seems a very odd thing to do, unless he was perhaps just trying to buy himself a bit of space. There's Naomi Campbell, supermodel, former girlfriend of Flavio Briatore, whose driver, Jarno Trulli, is leading this Grand Prix. And, well, we've seen Trulli in the past. He led in Spain the first stint of 9 laps a couple of weeks ago. Last year, remember, he led at Silverstone before the track invasion. That really cost him the Grand Prix victory there last year. And way back in '97, when he was driving with the Prost team, he led in Austria very comfortably for most of the race until his engine blew up. As I said before, he'd led 61 laps going into this race, but never the last one. And with every lap that ticks down now, just 20 to go, he's getting closer and closer to that dream first victory.
Yeah, but so is Jenson Button getting closer to him. Gap down to 5.2. And the good news for Jenson is that Montoya is quick and is not going to come into play here. As soon as he gets behind him, Montoya's got to get out of his way anyway. But at the moment, Jenson unquestionably has got 2 or 3 tenths. He's had a bad middle sector looking at that. He's 3 tenths slower in the middle sector than Trulli. So has Trulli been able to respond? But Jenson's been relentlessly closing that gap.
Well, comes through then to complete lap 58. Does Jarno Trulli? Let's have a look what the margin is at the moment. Trulli to Button has gone out a little bit. It's cat and mouse at the moment, isn't it? Trulli then leading Button. Barrichello third, Montoya fourth, Felipe Massa fifth, De Mata currently in 6th place. 17 laps to go at Monaco. Has it been an interesting Grand Prix? Well, there's certainly plenty happened. We had a delayed start. Olivier Panis couldn't get his car to go in the right grid slot. Then when we got going, Takuma Sato made an incredible start, jostled Michael Schumacher out of the way and seemed to be going well before his engine blew up. And then in the smoke, David Coulthard and Giancarlo Fisichella tangled. Fisichella flipped upside down into the barriers at the Tabac. He's perfectly okay. So is David Coulthard. We had a safety car. The 2 Renaults then dominated. Trulli leading. He's led most of this Grand Prix here this afternoon, ahead of his teammate Fernando Alonso. Michael Schumacher managed to pass Jenson Button in the first round of pit stops. The BAR team not quite as slick perhaps as the Ferrari. Michael Schumacher also mesmerizingly quick in that period around the first pit stops. Kimi Raikkonen retired once again. David Coulthard told us it was because his engine was going to blow up. And certainly then 2 very odd incidents that we'll be talking about for quite some time to come. First of all, Fernando Alonso lapping Ralf Schumacher, hits the wall at the outside of the tunnel. 180-mile-an-hour accident. Very, very strange incident indeed. Appeared to feel the need to go round the outside of the Williams while lapping him in the tunnel, which has really never been attempted before. And then under the safety car to clear that mess up, Michael Schumacher and Juan Montoya had another bizarre incident. Schumacher locking a brake, appearing to be caught out, perhaps, I don't know, the safety car perhaps slowed down. Whatever happened, Montoya had no inkling it was going to happen and ran up the back of him, which pushed Michael Schumacher into the wall and into the first retirement of the 2004 season. His first retirement since Brazil last year. He's not going to make it 6 in a row at the start of this season. It's between Jarno Trulli in the Renault and Jenson Button, here he is in the BAR Honda with 16 laps to go. Which one of these 2 men is going to win their first Formula One Grand Prix here this afternoon?
Button just 4.8 seconds adrift now. Took 6 tenths out of Trulli on the previous lap, pushing like crazy he is now. Trulli's got, it's much easier to chase than be chased, isn't it? I notice Jarno Trulli is short shifting the engine as well, just knocking a few revs off between each gear shift, looking after the car. Let's assume that in the panic of the safety car situation, that BAR and Renault both got the correct amount of fuel in to get them to the end of the Grand Prix. Ted is down in the pits with Jock Clare from BAR.
Yeah, down here with, well, he's just gone onto the radio actually, but Jock Clare's been in and out of the Williams garage. Jock, what are you doing in there?
Well, obviously, at the moment we've got Montoya between us and Trulli. Montoya's not in a fight with anybody. It won't cost him much to just let us go as soon as he sees us in his mirrors. We can't afford to get stuck behind him even for half a lap. We've got a bit of performance on Trulli, and we've got a bit more to come from the engine, and we want to be able to use it with Trulli, not use it with Montoya.
What, you really think Jensen's got a chance of actually passing Trulli on the track?
Probably not, but we have got a chance of putting pressure on Trulli, and we see Alonso made a mistake, and Trulli is going to make a mistake as well, only if we pressure him.
Well, you got what you wanted, Jock, because the Williams has just pulled right out of the way, and Montoya lets through the man who he replaced at the Williams team a couple of years ago. Back in 2001, in fact, and Jenson Button now free to attack Jarno Trulli with 15 laps to go. Meanwhile, a bit further back, we've got two drivers, Ralf Schumacher and Olivier Panis, battling for 8th place. They are 2 laps down on the leader, and it's not often in a Formula One race you can say that being 2 laps down, you've got a chance of a point, but one of those two men will take home a point this afternoon. Panis catching Ralf Schumacher for that final point at around about a second a lap. Toyota looks set to get their first points of the championship with D'Amata in 6th place, and Eddie Jordan looks set to get some points as well today. 2 at the moment for Nick Heidfeld, who's had a wonderful afternoon. 17th on the grid, he's kept it out of trouble. He pitted at the right time under the first safety car, which was the right time to pit, and he's currently in 7th place and looking good.
Yes, Button lost a 10, still going the long way around Montoya. The gap 4.8 seconds, as Ted was pointing out. Catching's one thing, passing is quite another. But as Jock very correctly pointed out too, you've got to put pressure. This is a pressure game. You're either giving it or you're receiving it, and they want to be there. I think, like me, he sensed that Trulli is short shifting the engine, and they're obviously very happy to let Johnson max out with his motor this afternoon. You've got to win this one, haven't you? If you've got half a chance. This is the Grand Prix every Grand Prix driver most wants to win.
Well, Bernie Ecclestone has organised a parade down Regent Street in London shortly before the British Grand Prix to just publicise the event a little bit on the 6th of July between 6 and 8 p.m. if you fancy going down and seeing some Formula One cars driven at parading speeds. Here on the streets of Monte Carlo, it's not a parade, it's a dogfight between Trulli and Jenson Button. Both men at the moment at the top of their game. Both men with a tremendous amount of motivation and confidence going into this Grand Prix. They both feel they're driving well. Both of their teams have provided them with excellent racing cars for the last few Grand Prix, and this is their moment. One of them will come out on top here this afternoon.
10 runners, 2 contenders. Jenson very calm at the wheel, not letting the car move at all. He's very much, him and Coulthard particularly stand out for how they don't like to let the car start sliding. It's almost deceptively fast how they drive, but at the moment he can't improve that gap. It's 4.9 seconds. Trulli has just about got the measure of him. 13 laps to go, including the one they're on.
Looking very relaxed there in the BAR garage. They're almost getting used to success now. String of podium finishes they've had of late. Jenson Button, 3rd in Malaysia, 3rd again in Bahrain, 2nd in San Marino. Dropped the ball a little bit 2 weeks ago in Spain in qualifying, but managed to recover well to finish 8th. That was the day when Jarno Trulli got his first podium of the season in Barcelona, and look how he's built on that. Pole position here yesterday and leading almost the entire Grand Prix here this afternoon. Beautiful onboard shots, Dave. Slowest part of the racetrack. Lowe's hairpin. There's Button. The gap, he can see him. It must be so tantalising for him. But by the time he comes out of Portier, sees the big ocean liners with all their passengers from the USA. It's the most popular race of the year, actually, outside of North America, for Americans to come to Europe and soak up the atmosphere of Grand Prix racing. A lot of big hitters in the paddock as well on these boats this weekend. We saw Martin talking to Roman Abramovich, one of the wealthiest men in the world, but there's a lot of very rich people here as well, big captains of industry. Lots of sponsors eyeing Formula One up. I spoke to the CEO of one major oil company, thinking very much about coming in. Another big electronics company as well, also thinking of coming in. So this is the place to bring the big cheeses, to woo them, to try and get them to sponsor your car. And certainly David Richards of the BAR team saying that they're lining up, they're queuing up now to sponsor BAR with the success they're enjoying at the moment.
You can see the gap is squeezed out, look, 5.15. Trulli really does have the pace, and he doesn't look flustered with it either, does he? Moving away from that nasty bump on the way down to Mirabeau. The front of the Renault's superb there. So hard to get a car to follow that line of corner in the Mirabeau. And Jensen, as you say, tantalisingly close, James, but he can't get any closer.
Well, one thing that's for sure this afternoon is that if either Trulli or Jenson Button wins this Grand Prix, we're going to have 10 Grand Prix winners in the field. Flavio Briatore there, Christian Silk, the man in the middle with the fireproof overalls on and the beard. He's in charge of the test team at Renault, and he's the man who was doing all that excellent work at Paul Ricard in the last few weeks to improve this Renault chassis, which certainly made a huge difference here this weekend.
This might help Jensen's cause. Two cars. Are they fighting? No, they're not fighting each other, but they'll be getting the flags to let the leader through. He does a 1:16.8. Jenson Button does a 1:15.8. The gap down to 4.1 seconds now. One of Jensen's better laps too, but Trulli already safely clear of one of the back markers. They've now lapped the entire field at least once, with the exception of Barrichello in third place, who's a full minute behind the leader. But again then, Trulli losing time in the slow section. No, he's not going to turn in front of you, for goodness sake.
That's Heidfeld in the Jordan, running in 7th place at the moment. Obviously didn't see the wave blue flags. Hopefully he's seen him now. He's still in front of Trulli, and Trulli's going to have to try and pass him in the tunnel. Well, we know what happens if you try that. He's got past him already. There's Jenson Button now, and Button has really closed the gap to the race leader thanks to this traffic. He's now got to get past the Toyota and the Jordan, and this isn't an easy part of the racetrack to do it. Get out of the way, he'll be screaming in his helmet.
Yeah, and he's got to keep a cool head. This is the moment. I've crashed in a Grand Prix before now where your focus goes on them and your anger instead of the piece of racetrack that you're on. Heidfeld appears to have been in everybody's way today, doesn't he, with the Jordan, and still he's trying to keep it on the racing line and still threaten to turn in on Jensen. But nonetheless, where's it going to shake out in terms of lap time? He still, I think, is going to have the gap down to a bit over 3 seconds. Where is it? 3.5 then. So he's moving in.
Yes, he gained 0.6 of a second. That's all he managed to get as a result of that. Flavio Briatore for making his feelings clear about the traffic. It's only 0.6, Flavio. Keep your hair on. Look at the intensity with which these two men are driving now. This is great stuff. That's the Minardi that Trulli has just passed. Here comes Button to pass it too. Baumgartner stays well out of the way. Button can almost smell the exhaust fumes coming out of the back of this Renault now. He's on a Mansell-esque charge.
Yeah, sensible driving there from the back marker. Button underway. Hey, listen, if a Ferrari's not going to win a Grand Prix this year, there's big stakes. You've got to be the one that does. You can't miss opportunities like this with Ferrari on such stellar form in 2004. And Flavio Briatore is very, very aware of that.
Very anxious to win another Grand Prix. His last victory, Hungary last year with Fernando Alonso. BAR never won a Grand Prix yet. This is their 89th Grand Prix start. One of the younger teams in Formula One. How dearly would they love to break their duck here?
Yes, both these drivers have been in the points in every Grand Prix, and with the Barrichello has 2 in third place, so the top 3, as the gap's now down to 2.2, the top 3 have been relentlessly reliable and consistent, but Trulli and Button then shaping up for a grand finale. 8 laps to go as he goes through Casino Square, but you know, when he gets there, what can he do about it? There is race leader then, down at the bottom of the hill, and that's an extra incentive for Jensen. A back marker coming up. It's Ralf Schumacher with his ailing Williams.
This is fantastic stuff. 8 to go, and Jenson Button has just taken 1.2 seconds out of the lead of Jarno Trulli. There's some anxiety and anguish down in the Renault timing stand. Trulli has got past the Williams. Now Button's got to do the same thing. As Martin said, though, getting up behind the Renault is one thing, passing quite another, as we found out a few years ago with Nigel Mansell and Ayrton Senna here. Mansell forced to make a late pit stop, came out behind Senna and could not pass him. Those of you who followed Grand Prix racing that long will remember the efforts Mansell went to. He almost tried to go around over the top of him, because going around the side was absolutely impossible. Well, the atmosphere down at BAR must be electric. Ted's in there.
Unbelievably electric, James. High tension in here. I tell you why, because it's different to Imola when they finished second behind a Ferrari. They're quicker than Renault now. The car is quicker, and they just have to try and get past him, get close to him. As we heard Jock said, Jarno may make a mistake. Mechanics clenched fists, punching at the TV screens.
Gap down to 1.7 seconds. Oh, how much did it cost Jenson when he got hooked up? He pitted very early, got into traffic at the very early stages of this Grand Prix, and it cost him dearly. But he's come back, and he's just kept working at it all afternoon. Now he's beginning to be able to read the sponsors' letters on the rear wing of Jarno Trulli's Renault.
And the two garages side by side, the Renault garage and the BAR garage, they were finished one behind the other in last year's World Championship. That means they're next door neighbours at every Grand Prix this season. And this is Grand Prix racing at its absolute finest on a beautiful sunny day in Monte Carlo. An Englishman is chasing an Italian for their first Grand Prix victory. We look back then from the Renault to see where is the BAR Honda of Jenson Button. There he is, coming into Rascasse corner now.
Jenson's about a tenth up on this current lap in the first two sectors, but Jarno definitely has got such a strong car in the middle sector of this lap, and it's paid dividends this afternoon. The gap was 1.7, is now 1.6. There are 6 laps to go.
Further back, Rubens Barrichello a full minute behind the race leaders. An odd pit stop sequence for him here this afternoon. Montoya is 4th, Massa is in 5th place for Sauber. Another strong performance from him after his teammate Fisichella was eliminated in that accident, very nasty accident early on with David Coulthard, which flipped the Sauber upside down. Cristiano De Mata looks set to get first points of the season for Toyota in 6th. Heidfeld has held a lot of people up here this afternoon. He's 2 laps down on the race leader in 7th, and Ralf Schumacher currently still in 8th place, 3 laps down on the race leader. But for the last 6 laps, there's only one place to watch. All the champagne glasses will have been put back on the table. Everyone will be sitting on the edge of their expensively lined leather seats on their yachts and watching this extraordinary drama unfolding on the streets of Monte Carlo as Jenson Button tries to haul in, quite effectively at the moment, you'd have to say, Jarno Trulli for the lead.
Did he go wide down there? He could have recovered it if he did, but he's really pushing as hard as he can. He can't match him in the middle sector, but he's much quicker in the first and third sectors. Gap was 1.6, is now 1.4, 5 to go. Running out of time, Jenson. You're going to have to start pulling some 1 minute 15 laps if you're going to get right up there and frighten Jarno Trulli in any way. Trulli looking very composed up front, and his car handling absolutely beautifully.
He is looking very composed, isn't he, Jarno Trulli? It's been a tremendous performance, whatever happens from here on now. Taking pole yesterday with one of the finest laps he's ever driven in a Grand Prix car, leading almost all of this Grand Prix. And he knows that even if Button does get right up behind him, it's going to be mighty difficult for him to get past. He has an advantage in speed in the middle sector of the lap, which is from the Mirabeau through to the swimming pool complex. We saw Juan Montoya make a pass into the first corner early on in the Grand Prix. It is possible to pass into Saint-Devote. It's possible to pass at 1 or 2 places, but you need an awful lot of cooperation to pull it off.
And the problem is, even into Rascasse now, where I believe you could muscle your way through, it's filthy dirty off the line, where somebody blew up in an earlier race today. There's what I'm talking about, all the dust on the side of the track. So I really don't know where he'd do it. It'd have to be down at the hairpin on the other side of the circuit.
Well, this is definitely the shot in the arm Formula One needed. Michael Schumacher dominating the season so far. 5 Grand Prix victories from 5 Grand Prix, but he's not going to win here this afternoon. He's out of the Grand Prix. And one of these 2 men is Trulli, metronomic on his pace. He really has been super consistent and banishing all criticisms, praying for the laps to just evaporate.
That's what you've got to remember, that the mechanics are just as competitive as the drivers. They have to have a different role at Grand Prix, and they need this just as much as... and this is the unusual thing about the new Monaco layout. If you saw our track guide for the qualifying show, is the team bosses are sort of up in a unit nowhere near the racetrack. It's slightly odd in terms of they don't look over into the pit lane or the exit end of the lap either. Very strange situation. That's why they're appearing to be indoors there. Button had slipped a 10 on the last lap. This is currently a 10th up, but that's all he can do. Is Ralf Schumacher becomes the 11th retirement of the race, putting Panis up into 8th, Baumgartner 9th with the Minardi. Both Toyotas in the points then. We only had 2 teams with 2 cars running. That is now down to 1 with Ralf Schumacher exiting the Grand Prix. 3 laps to go.
Yeah, Baumgartner 5 laps down on the race leaders. If anybody else pulls out of this Grand Prix in the Minardi, he will have a World Championship point. Look how close Jenson Button is now to the Renault of Jarno Trulli. He can almost read the sponsor's name on the rear wing. A grandstand finish in store here in Monte Carlo. Out of Mirabeau, down to Lowe's. Having to wait for the man in front to hit the gas before you can hit the gas itself. Down to Portier. This is where Ayrton Senna threw it off back in 1988 when he had the race won.
It's almost as if Trulli's tightened up, you know. It's almost like he's now beginning to watch every little slide because he's losing a lot of time to Jenson, and he's just going to have to free himself up inside that racing car. And he's giving the barriers plenty of distance. Jenson's pushing the limits much harder than Trulli at the moment. Trulli with track position, but you sense he's tightening up with so few laps to go.
Well, in some ways, it's easier to be the hunted than the hunted, the hunter than the hunted. There's a bollard in the middle of the racetrack. Did you notice that on the exit of the swimming pool section? Doesn't seem to have bothered anybody. And look how close Button is now. They were 0.9. They are now 0.7, 0.2 of a second. It's too little to even talk about. It's all about racecraft now. It's all about pressure. It's all about psychology. It's all about keeping a cool head. The hard charger, Jenson Button, versus the nearly man, the man who wants to shed that reputation and become a star man for the first time in his career, Jarno Trulli.
That's the problem. And the dirty air syndrome affects you less around here. This is more about mechanical grip and aerodynamic grip, but nonetheless, you can drive the widest Formula One car in the world very easily, especially with the track so dirty offline, as Fernando Alonso, amongst others, found out. Flavio's now beginning to relax, now beginning to think, hey, I think he can do it, because I think if Trulli was going to get flustered, it would have happened by now.
Plenty of face time this afternoon for Flavio Briatore, man who never backward in coming forward, always exuberant in his celebrations when his drivers won, particularly in the old days of Michael Schumacher. He's put this exciting pairing together of Alonso and Trulli, and now it's really starting to pay dividends for them. Alonso already a winner, Trulli just 1 lap away from becoming a winner. Jenson Button hasn't given up yet. Into Saint-Devote, 60 miles an hour then as they go up the hill. The famous hill, been in use here since the 1920s when a man called Anthony Nogues decided it would be a good idea to let Grand Prix cars loose on the streets of the world, this famous principality. Tax haven for the rich and famous.
Back marker ahead, but I don't necessarily think it's going to come into play, but there is a back marker, and really Jenson's just fallen back now into Trulli's place. Indeed, the Minardi is there. Will he see them coming? He's going to be in the tunnel as they approach him, so it's still a critical moment for the 2 leaders as they head into the darkness and the wilderness of that tunnel. Where are they going to meet the Minardi? And it is after the exit.
The last lap of the Grand Prix, and Minardi's in the way of Jenson Button. Any chance he had of getting him is now gone, and Button signals to Minardi. It's not really his fault. It's very unfortunate where he caught him. I don't think Button could have done anything much, and that probably has handed the initiative to Jarno Trulli. The final part of the swimming pool. Button's throwing everything. Caution to the wind now. He's not going to try a lunge down the Rascasse. He can't. He's too far away. Trulli comes out of Anthony Nogues. He's going to see the man with the checkered flag. And Jarno Trulli is going to win his first ever Formula One Grand Prix. There is the checkered flag. And in the end, Button was just 0.4 of a second behind him. Pat Simmons up on the timing stand there on the right-hand side of your screens. Delighted for his man. He's masterminded the race strategies for this team. BAR aren't unhappy today, but they did come close, didn't they? What a terrific Grand Prix.
Fantastic. We're still waiting for Barrichello to finish 3rd at this time, and well-deserved for Jarno Trulli. Absolutely. He's taken a long time to really sharpen his game up, but he's been immense for the best part of 12 months now, and under a lot of pressure, He absolutely was faultless today, had it under control, set his car up beautifully. A brilliant pole position lap, and I'm really, really happy for the guy.
Yeah, I'm very, very happy for him as well. He's had so much bad luck. There's Rubens Barrichello in third place, going to finish 71 seconds behind the race winner.
Could be even more than that because he's just coasting now, but he's got to cross the line. He's the last man that's got to cross the line because he's the only one unlapped. So Rubens must remember not to go in the pit lane. Not that anybody can pass him, but here he comes now. And D'Amato was just 3/10 off Massa. Massa takes 5th, D'Amato 6th. Barrichello now takes his 3rd place as the only unlapped runner. So truly, Button, Barrichello, Montoya, Massa just from D'Amato, Heidfeld, Panis takes the final point. Baumgartner tantalisingly close for a point there. So good news for Jordan then. 2 World Championship points for a rather recalcitrant Nick Heidfeld. And here then is the moment where Alonso, already sweeping a long way around the outside, went to pass Ralph, and when he sees that, he's going to wonder why he went so wide so early, and he's also going to wonder why Ralph didn't back off much earlier in the tunnel.
Well, that's certainly one I would think that the stewards will want to have a look at and a chat about. And then a little bit later on, we had an equally strange incident with Michael Schumacher and Juan Montoya. Well, they couldn't get the win today. They're second once again with Jenson Button. Ted is talking to BAR boss Dave Richards.
David, what a nerve-wrencher. What real guts churning in those last few laps.
It was, you know, closing all the time, but you've seen what it's like to overtake here, and he's held up quite badly in the middle by some back markers, and, well, D'Amato eventually got a drive-through penalty for it. That probably made the difference.
Only second, but such a good drive. The way he closed the gap on Trulli's great.
No, he wasn't going to give up. You know, the great thing about him and the team in general now, we'll take it right to the finish. We're not going to be so easy to say, oh, we can't overtake, let's sit back. No, that's not the style. We're going to take the fight right the way there.
Very well done.
BAR third now in the Constructors' World Championship, just 12 points behind Renault and ahead of the Williams team. So these are halcyon days for BAR. And it must be said for the Renault team as well. A very, very well-deserved victory from what will undoubtedly be a very emotional Jarno Trulli. Yes. Says it all. Formula One's rock and roll team then. In the days of Benetton and Michael Schumacher, they had the best pop music playing in their garage. They lost their way a little bit, but they've certainly found it again now, haven't they?
Button and Trulli then just 1 point adrift between Button's 3rd with 32 points, Trulli 4th with 31 points. It's a good scrap going on there. They're homing in on Rubens Barrichello. Michael Schumacher still well clear up front with his 50 points, but a bit of a sour face today.
Yeah, definitely has. There'll be a lot of talk about that. Nice touch there as Trulli came down the pit straight, went past the teams he's driven for in the past. Jordan, all the mechanics reaching out, giving him a big thumbs up. There's his team boss, Flavio Briatore. And Jarno Trulli has his first Grand Prix victory. Rubens Barrichello will have a wry smile, no doubt, on his 32nd birthday, finding himself on the podium after such a strange... That's a good bit of corporate PR for you.
The Rossi snog, yeah, on the front of your piece of equipment that's just let you win the race. But, that was no lucky victory. That was a very well executed weekend.
Alan Permain there, his race engineer. Patrick Faure, the boss of Renault Sport, the top boss. And there's Herbie Blasch, just steering the race winner towards Prince Rainier, who will once again perform the honours, as he has for so many years, handing out the winner's trophy to Jarno Trulli. There's Jenson Button. What a stunning performance by him again this weekend. As David Richards said, if he hadn't had that problem being held up by Cristiano D'Amato, who was being lapped in the middle part of the race, it might have been a bit different for Jenson Button, but that's Monaco. And there you are. Respect between competitors.
Gender saying well done. There was a definite clenching of teeth there, wasn't it? Well done.
Prince Albert there on the left, Princess Caroline of Monaco on the right. Renier presents the trophy to Jarno Trulli, and he is a fully fledged Grand Prix winner at last.
Race number 117 then for Jarno. Jensen just keeps getting on the podium, doesn't he? Amazing. Where's he been? 6th at the first race, third, second, then 8th. The difficult race in Barcelona, now 2nd again this weekend in Monte Carlo. And Happy Bunny lives in England.
Finally sinks into Jarno Trulli, the magnitude of what he's achieved.
I always expected a Kleenex moment there, didn't you? I thought with Jarno, but he's very, very composed. I got one of those second place trophies from here at home that Jensen's just stepped around, and it means about 10% as much as the one next door to it, unfortunately. The win here is absolutely amazing and everything. But this is one of the best podiums. I don't know why, it's a silly little box, but somehow or other it means more than just about any other podium in the world, with the possible exception of Le Mans.
Well, it's been a real shot in the arm for Formula One. A great Grand Prix, great spectacle. Absolutely no doubt about that whatsoever. The champagne flies on the boulevard of Monte Carlo. Flavio Briatore getting involved as well. Tremendous race, Martin.
Yeah, I'm sure Jarno appreciated a bottle of champagne in his face there, but he's going to go and find his mechanic.
You're back with us in Monte Carlo. Jarno Trulli has won the Monaco Grand Prix. Another unfortunate weekend in the season for McLaren and for David Coulthard. David, first of all, tell us about your race. Tell us, because it ended pretty abruptly, didn't it? And we cut short your interview a little bit during the race. You were rather upset by what happened there.
Well, obviously I was disappointed because I love the challenge of driving around Monte Carlo. It's fantastic, and I felt very comfortable with conserving my tyres. I was a little bit frustrated because you could see that Sato's engine was smoking from the parade lap. You know, our team retired Kimi when they knew he had an engine problem because it's just too risky to allow a car to run and blow up on the track. You know, you put oil down, or as you saw there, the track was just completely covered in smoke.
You made a point, perhaps, there that BAR, a young side, a young outfit, very, very keen to win. That if they'd have been rather more pragmatic, they'd have seen that and pulled Sato out earlier.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm not making any friends there, which is not at all the intention. It's an absolute professional observation. Our team has retired Kimi because they knew his engine was going to blow up. if the Honda engineers knew their engine was experiencing difficulties, I think it's the only professional thing to do, because the result of leaving the car out there smoking and then eventually blowing up is that a number of cars have had an incident and one guy was upside down, and that's, you know, they have to understand the consequences of running at the front. They've earned their slot there. They're doing a great job, but maybe they could be a bit sharper there.
Just going back to the start of the race, I think it was your best qualifying position of the season, and you thought Takuma Sato might have got a bit of a jump start on you. I think we can see it down here now. Yeah,
there's no question that it wasn't that he got a jump on me. He went whilst the lights were still red, and I almost jumped the start when he moved. So I'm very, look, you can see there quite clearly, he had a lot of momentum before the lights changed. So I don't know whether the jump start system wasn't working properly, or whether they just decided to turn a blind eye. But for me, he should have been penalised for that.
He certainly wasn't penalised, was it? And Takuma Sato, of course, went on, and when he blew up, it must be the ultimate driver's nightmare, really, with all that smoke, and you're literally driving and you can't see the hand in front of your face.
Well, that's right. I think Mark's got much more experience on the ovals when cars blow up. I think the engineers tell them whether to go high or go low, and at that moment I did think of that movie. You know, I had no idea whether I was supposed to go high or low, so I came to the inside and was just going pretty slowly, and Montoya pulled up alongside me, and then obviously Fizzy just came over the back of the car, and I could see he was upside down, and obviously was pretty concerned for him, and glad to hear he was okay. It was very confusing actually at that point, because they threw a red flag. So normally that would mean a restart, and then they threw a safety car flag. So it was, I think the organisers made a bad call at one moment. In the end, the safety car was absolutely adequate, but when you see a red flag, all the drivers automatically think the race has stopped.
Sure. How big an impact was that for you when Giancarlo came flying over the top of you? How scary a moment was that for you individually?
No, for me it's not a problem, because the rear wing and the rear crash structure took the brunt of the impact. Seeing another car going upside down, the last time that happened to me was actually with Martin in Melbourne in '96. I saw him disappear rotating upside down, and it's never a nice moment, because you fear for the driver and you don't want to be the cause of an injury for them.
There's lots of instances that I'm going to talk to Mark and Tony about a little bit later on, but just give us your view of what occurred in the dark recesses of the tunnel. Two big incidents in there.
Yeah, for me it's, and I'm sure there'll be lots of opinions, but for me it's quite clear Ralph should either have allowed Alonso to overtake him before they entered the tunnel or after the tunnel. To do what he did, which is kind of half-hearted in the middle of the tunnel, it's crazy. There's one line through there, and Alonso was forced wide, and he's racing the guy in front. He's got to keep pushing, and he was put in a situation that I think that once he was on the marbles, there was no chance for him to come back. And so for me, Ralph was a little bit naughty there. And the Michael situation, clearly he can set the pace because they're still behind the safety car. Quite clearly he was trying to warm his brakes up. But as I was talking with Mark before we came on, and as you saw with Montoya at the restart with Barrichello, he's got a lot of experience from America and doing these jumps and the rolling starts, and clearly he was just trying to keep as close as he could to Michael. So I'm interested to know what the stewards will do on this one.
Right, a word for you about your pal Jenson Button. Didn't win here, but a terrific charge from him.
Yeah, I have to say, I was watching the race with my girlfriend and Marigold Nui at the end there, and I was so nervous. I don't think I've ever been so nervous, because he was catching Jarno, and I really thought that with that sort of charge, if he could catch him and have a go straight away, he had a chance to overtake. I know that if he didn't do that straight away, then he was just going to follow him home. But I'm delighted for him. He's driving so well. His confidence is sky high at the moment, and I'm looking forward to seeing him later.
Just a final word from you about what it means to win here, to triumph in Monaco. You've had that feeling twice. It's very special for every driver.
Yeah, I think that obviously there's only 10 points for this race like any other, but the sensation and the pride that goes with winning here in Monaco continues for many days afterwards, and it's a great event, and you can see here all the glamour that's attached to the event here, so it's a big one to win.
David, it's not the easiest trip to join us up here on the balcony. We appreciate you taking the trouble. I know you're enjoying the view, and I'm sure down there you'll be up on the rostrum again very soon. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate that.
Thanks a lot, David. Okay, we are actually hearing that Juan Pablo Montoya is going to have a word with his stewards to explain what happened in the tunnel. Of course, we'll bring you the result of that if we get it before we leave you. But now let's join the top three in the press conference.
A truly, if I may use the word, historic occasion. Your first win, Renault's first win as a team at Monte Carlo, and the first win by an Italian here for 22 years. The pressure at the end of the race was outstanding as well.
It's amazing at the moment. I'm so happy for me, for everybody, for all those people which have been supporting me. I've been waiting for so long. and it came the best race in Monaco. It was just fantastic for me. I did a perfect race, been leading from the beginning, and even with Michael on the track, I would have won anyway because I already had a pit. And in the end, I was just managing the race. I was slowing down, taking care of tires and everything, not taking any risk, because anyway, you know that in Monaco you cannot overtake.
Talk us through the closing stages of the race there. Jensen got very, very close at the end there.
It was just down to me, honestly. When I wanted, I just responded to the quickest lap time. But then in the end, I just point to take any risk. I was just handling the race. He closed the gap, but we couldn't anyway get close enough to try to overtake. So, you know, everything was under control.
Well, you seem very calm and composed. What were your thoughts and emotions in those closing laps, and particularly on the slowing down lap as well?
So many things have gone through my mind. You know, I've been waiting for so long. I've been through a lot of bad moments. And the moment I just cannot realize that I won the race and I won in Monaco, the best race probably in the world. So I'm happy. Nothing is going to change for me. I will keep going as I've done for the first part of the championship. And I'm so happy for me, but especially from the Renault team.
Very sincere congratulations. Jensen, what a race from your point of view.
Yeah, I mean, off the line, I didn't get a very good start, and I lost out to Alonso. And then it was really tough. You know, the traffic was so tough. You know, the back markers. But in the last stint, when I was behind Jarno, I know that you can't overtake here, but I had to give everything I possibly could, and maybe push him into a mistake. And I know he wasn't pushing 100%, but you've got to try. And you know, I had the possibility of hitting a guardrail, but I want to win so much, so I was pushing as hard as I possibly could.
A brilliant drive. We saw a lot of incidents in this race. One of the major ones, of course, was Michael Schumacher hitting the guardrail in the tunnel. Did you see any of that?
No, because I had already had my pit stop, so I was 7 or 8 cars back. But it was very strange. It's slippery in the tunnel anyway. We normally go through there 160 miles an hour, and you have so much downforce. You don't have a problem with the slippery asphalt. But when you're going that slow, it is very, very slippery.
Well, both you and Jarno had 2 stops. Did the amount of safety car time affect your strategy?
When Alonso hit the barriers in the tunnel, obviously we pitted immediately, and I think it was the correct thing to do so. And I think if Michael had stayed on circuit, I think we would have been ahead when he had made his stop. So the team did a fantastic strategy, but we couldn't catch this man.
Congratulations. Rubens, a distant 3rd place, but a 3rd place nonetheless. You didn't come in, like Michael, when the safety car came out. What was the thinking behind that?
Oh, we had a lot of fuel on board yet at that time. But I must be honest, I was very lucky today just to finish the race, because there was a point in the race that I started to lock the wheels, and I felt that something happened on the rear suspension. And so it was on the safety car. When the safety car came in, I had the chance to go slow through just beside the wall, just to see if they could see something, because I was hitting the ground quite badly, and I was locking the wheels like if the car wasn't behaving quite right from left to right. So it was a question just to go round and round just to finish the race. Really, it was no point on pushing, because there was nowhere. Something must have broken on the car.
What did you see of Michael's incident in the tunnel?
I was further behind, so I couldn't see anything. All of a sudden, I saw some pieces flying, and then I saw Michael just slowing down with the suspension. So nothing that I could have seen.
And what about the Sato engine blow up early in the race?
To be very honest with you, I thought that they should have put a flag to him before, because there was already three laps where he was already putting too much smoke, you know, out of the engine or out of the gearbox. Something was happening there. It was obvious, and there was major drama. I caught the car just when I was going into the guardrail. I was 0 per hour, but I would have damaged my car, because you could see absolutely nothing.
Well, Jarno, final thoughts from you. You started from the pole and you've won the Monaco Grand Prix. It must be starting to sink in now.
It's fine. It's nice to dominate the weekend. I think it was a faultless weekend. I'm extremely happy because it's the best way to win the race, being always on top during the whole weekend.
You're back with us in Monte Carlo. Confirmation of the result of the Monaco Grand Prix. Jarno Trulli winning a Grand Prix for the first time in 118 starts. Jenson Button, a superb runner-up. Rubens Barrichello, the only Ferrari driver on the podium today. Montoya, fourth for Williams. Felipe Massa getting 4 points for Sauber. D'Amata, 3 for Toyota. Nick Heidfeld, 2 precious points for Jordan. And Olivier Panis, winner here in 96, 1 point for Toyota. The Drivers' Championship, he did not score today. He remains, though, 12 points ahead of Rubens Barrichello. Another Grand Prix next weekend in Germany, by the way, the European. Jenson Button third, 6 points behind Barrichello and a point ahead of today's winner, Jarno Trulli, in the Renault. Montoya 23, a couple ahead of Fernando Alonso. We'll have a look at his incident in a moment in the tunnel. Ralf Schumacher, 12 points for Williams. There's rumours he might just be announcing these shifting to Toyota this week. And Takuma Sato started very fast and then the Honda engine blew. 8 points for the Japanese driver. And in the constructors, 88 to Ferrari. Barrichello scoring for them today, of course. Renault passed the 50 mark. BAR third on 45 points ahead of Williams. Sauber have 7. McLaren 5. Toyota 4. Jordan 2. And Jaguar with just the 1 point.
Fernando, a very unusual incident. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, Ralph was in front of me. He moved to the right into the tunnel. And then when we were side by side, he went in the throttle again until he pushed me in the outside to the barrier. It's an unusual movement, as you said.
So you feel this was an accident directly caused by Ralph?
Yes, like most of the accidents that Ralph is involved.
Are you going to be talking to him about this?
No, I don't lose time. I have more things to do.
Very nasty place to have an accident as well. I mean, it's very high speed there.
Yes, very high speed, but maybe Ralph likes that.
Move on and talk about big brother Michael. For the first time this season, we didn't see the winning jump on the podium. They're going to have to put some more cameras in the tunnel here in Monaco, I think, to discover exactly what went on here. But apparently, Tony, Juan Pablo has apologised a little bit for this.
Yeah, I say that, but I sympathise with Juan Pablo to a degree. Now, Mark has an opinion on this as well, but you know what Michael likes to do. When he's behind the safety car or when he's on the formation lap in the lead, he likes to control the whole pack. He wanted, whatever he was doing with his brakes, he was slowing down, going backwards and forwards. He did it at Monza in 2000. He compressed the field so badly that Jenson Button was the victim at that time of the concertina. He went off before the race even started, because Michael does that sort of thing.
And we're hearing that Michael is with the stewards at the moment. Anything that you would like to add to what happened there, Mark?
I think the bottom line for me is that he's the leader. He dictates what goes on, whether it's in the tunnel, outside of the tunnel. Montoya just getting back to his old US racing style of rolling starts, trying to make the jump. He made it very early on at Barrichello and done a fantastic manoeuvre. He got a little bit caught out.
OK, let's see what Ferrari's Ross Brawn has to say about it all.
Ross, what's your view of how Michael ended this year's Monaco Grand Prix?
Very unfortunate. You never want to go out of a race for that sort of reason. Michael...
What would you say the reason was? Because there's a bit of speculation around. What do you think he was doing?
Well, we'd informed him the safety car was coming in, and as soon as the safety car comes in, the drivers start to warm their brakes up. And he was warming his brakes up, and Juan Pablo hit the back of him. So... sure the stewards will have a look through it carefully and decide what they felt happened. We don't have all the facts yet, so...
As we've said, well, as we've just seen, Michael and Juan Pablo have just gone down to see the stewards. Is your gut feeling that they'll probably say it's a racing incident, or do you think Juan Pablo has yet again been overzealous in this one?
I'm trying to restrain myself at the moment, because obviously to go out of the race like that's very frustrating, because I think we had a chance. Not a strong chance, but we had a chance of winning a race there. It started to come together for us. We had a lot of fuel left in the car, and Michael would have then had a very good sprint until he made his final stop, and I think it might have been possible, depending on how quickly he could have gone. So it was very frustrating to drop out like that.
Well, Patrick, Ross says that Michael was just warming his brakes up, as you do, and Juan Pablo hit him. Your view?
Well, I think it's on camera, and I mean, there's always going to be two different views of these things, but all Juan has said is that Michael did a burnout, which means accelerating hard, spinning the rear tyres up, and then put the brakes on hard, and one has to wonder whether that's a wise thing to do in a dark tunnel. Juan moved over to the right, and when Michael put the brakes on, his car moved right. So there was a bump between the two, but there's an inquiry going on. The stewards have asked to see them both, so I'm sure they'll make a good judgment on what the outcome is.
Would you expect a top line, a six-time world champion, to do something like stamp on the brake pedal in the middle of a dark tunnel?
Well, we had a similar problem at Monza for Jenson Button in the year 2000 when Michael was just in front of Jenson and there was a safety car, and on the straight before the start, Michael accelerated hard and then jammed the brakes on and caused Jenson to have to fly off the track in order to avoid going into the back of him. And I don't know, it strikes me that whatever you can say is that it doesn't seem to be a position where the driver behind can react fast enough. And despite what Michael might think, or Ross particularly might think, Juan is not a dirty driver. He's been used to driving for 2 years in Indy cars on high-speed ovals at 240 miles an hour. He knows what respecting your fellow drivers is. So I don't think that there was any dirty tricks in there.
OK, we'll see what happens in the stewards, but thanks very much, Patrick.
Flavio, many congratulations. What a great result. This is the race to win, isn't it?
Yeah. If you put some money, some race to win, it really is Monte Carlo. But it's not only winning, it's pole position, is have one guy in first row and one guy in the second row, dominate the race, and I think it was great.
It's often been said of Jarno that he's a great qualifier, but he can't keep the pace up during a race. I guess he proved us all wrong today.
Yeah, just before yesterday and today he's done a very, very good job. And in the end, you know, we are a little bit nervous, but, you know, Jenson was quick. And I think it was good for the spectator to keep everything alive.
How concerned were you at the finish? Because Jenson was pushing hard, wasn't he?
Yeah, you know, you're pushing hard. Theoretically, it's nice for the, it's nice for the spectator, but you know, you need to go close, you need to overtake. It's not so simple.
Just a word on Fernando's incident.
I don't know, honestly. I want to talk with Fernando because really I don't understand what happened. I don't know if you guys understand. I don't understand.
Nigel Mansell's record lives on. It's the end, though, of Michael Schumacher's unbeaten run. An absolutely marvellous drive through the streets of Monte Carlo from Jenson Button. We salute, though, the Italian Jarno Trulli, winner of Monaco 2004. Bye-bye.